I call the meeting of the San Juan Unified School District Board of Education.
Excellent. We are ready.
There's one closed session item on tonight's agenda, collective bargaining matters, discussion with negotiator Jim Shoemake, Assistant Superintendent, Schools and Labor Relations regarding CSEA Chapter 127, General Operations Support, Chauffeurs, Teamsters, Local Number 150, Transportation, Supervisors, Teachers, and Certificated Supervisory Units, and regarding non-represented groups, Management and Confidential Unit, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Mr. Allen, will you please give instructions to those in attendance via Zoom on how they can raise their hand if they have comment on the closed session items at this time?
I'd be happy to, President Villescaz. If you've joined us on closed session tonight and would like to offer a comment regarding a closed session item, now would be your opportunity to do so. On Zoom, you can do that by clicking the raise hand button that is found at the bottom of the screen if you're on a mobile device, or the bottom of the attendee list if you are on a desktop device. If you called into the meeting tonight, it's *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand, and we would invite you to do so at this time if you have a public comment to give regarding an item on closed session.
Are there any public comments at this time, Mr. Allen?
We have no raised hands, and give me one moment to verify that we have had no comments submitted via our form. And we do not have any comments submitted via our form either, President Villescaz.
Okay, we will now move into closed session and we will return to open session at 6:30 p.m.
Paula? Paula? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Saul.
I just want to know if she's going to announce the reason why I'm not there, or what do you think, Linda?
She doesn't need to. She can just say that you're.
They can't hear us, Ken.
Okay.
So we're working it out. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
I was just going to indicate you're joining us remotely, and that was it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
I was, yeah. Yeah.
President Viescas, if you indicate when you're ready, I will resume recording.
Moment. We will begin momentarily.
That door is open.
Okay, Mr. Allen, we're ready.
The floor is yours, President Viescas.
Mr. Allen, I want to make sure the YouTube feed is live and we're ready to go.
The feed does appear to be functioning properly.
Mr. Allen, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me? President Viescas? President Viescas? It's going to YouTube. She should be able to start.
Mr. Allen, can you hear me?
President Viescas, can you hear me?
We can't hear Trent. Do we have to turn
Hear you.
Is it?
I heard your cat.
Can our colleagues on the Zoom platform hear me?
Yeah, it is toward me. Okay. Go ahead and start.
I call the meeting of the San Juan Unified School District Board of Education back to order. The meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recording may capture sounds and images of those attending this meeting. The recording will be posted on the district website. Presenters will participate via the Zoom platform, and public attendance is provided via the Zoom platform as well as a live stream on the district's YouTube channel. We thank you for joining us and for your patience as we use this format in an effort to maximize access and participation during this time of social distancing and other restrictions. Please stand for the virtual presentation of the colors by the Casa Roble Fundamental High School Air Force Junior ROTC.
Color guard. Attention. Hut. Port. Arms. Forward. March. Color guard. Halt. Ready. Haste. Ready. Haste. Present. Arms. Ladies and gentlemen, may you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order. Arms. Ready. Haste. Forward. March.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Paula Viesquez, Board President. To my right is Dr. Michael McKibben, Board Vice President, and to his right is Superintendent Kent Kern. To my left is Ms. Zima Creason, Board Clerk, and to her left is Ms. Pam Costa, Board Member. Board Member Saul Hernandez is joining us remotely via Zoom. Before we begin, I'd like to review the two methods that are available to submit public comment for tonight's meeting. The first option is to submit a public comment online using the form located on the district website at www.sanjuan.edu/board-meeting. If you wish to submit a public comment on more than one agenda item, please submit a separate form for each item on which you are commenting. Comments received by 6 p.m. today have already been shared with all board members. Comments received after 6 p.m. tonight, including those submitted during the meeting, may be read during the meeting, depending on time restrictions. Comments may only be submitted on an agenda item up until that time that the agenda item has been discussed. The second option is on the Zoom platform, where you may use the raise your hand feature. When you are called on, you may share a comment via audio during the meeting. Please note that all public comments are subject to a 2-minute limit or approximately 1,500 characters. With that, we are at item D, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes for October 27th?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Dr. McKibben and seconded by Ms. Creason. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. We are now at item E1, High School Student Council reports. Tonight, we will hear from student representatives from Mesa Verde High School and Mira Loma High School. Welcome, and let's begin with Juliana Pingol from Mesa Verde.
Good evening, President Velasquez, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. I'm Juliana Pingle, ASB President and Senior of Mesa Verde High School, and I'm very happy and thankful to be here on behalf of Mesa Verde to speak about our school and the student experience through distance learning. To be honest, I've enjoyed distance learning as it has provided me with the outlet to keep calm in these difficult times. However, I'm not exactly the techiest person in the world, so my transition from in-person to online school has been a bumpy ride, to say the least. I've enjoyed the little things like not having to get up 2 hours before school to get ready and eat breakfast, or the fact that I can just be listening and taking notes right from the comfort of my bed. However, as a student who has dreamt of the day that when she would become a senior, I begin to feel disappointed at the fact that I'm unable to fully live out my perfect senior dream, like going to dances and rallies or just simply being on campus with my peers. I miss my friends, my teachers, the duties of being in student government, but most importantly, I miss the experience of school culture. Chilling with friends during lunch, ranting to classmates about how much work I need to do in a class, but proceeding to do the work anyway because we still want to get a good grade. Or going to events and having a good time and having a teacher to talk to when things get hard. We were living in an active student community, but now have been subjected to the stillness of distance learning. But despite all my wishes for this year, I understand the precautions that we need to take part in order to keep our community safe and healthy. And because of this, our student body has been motivated to think outside the box and push our creativity limit to the max in order to make our students feel they are connected and stronger together. At the beginning of distance learning, we had many spirit days to make people feel uplifted in these confusing times. We had days like Monday morning coffee, where you share your favorite morning drink, and What's for Lunch Wednesday, where you share what you had for lunch, in which students could submit their photos that would be shared on our school Instagram page at MVHS Connect. And we were really happy that there was a lot of student participation in this event, and this positive feedback set the tone for our following activities. This then transitioned into our Homecoming Spirit Week, and this year our theme was salad dressing, which I know sounds really weird and unconventional, but I swear it was a really fun idea. Our Spirit Days included Ranch, where you dress up like a cowboy, Thousand Island, where it was Hawaiian/Tourist Day themed, and our classic house dressing, where students dressed in school gear and colors. During this week, we also had our first ever royalty nomination done virtually as well, where students nominated their classmates and were presented on our Instagram page. Now, the month of October was also filled with a lot of activities that we encouraged our students to take part in. We had a virtual bingo night every week for the month of October for each class, which was done via Zoom, where we gave students the opportunity to win prizes by participating in these events. This also gave a chance for students to reconcile and mingle with the people in their class, and the winners were given $10 gift cards and were posted again on our Instagram. And in the midst of these bingo nights, ASB also teamed up with our art department to host a pre-recorded paint night, where one of our art teachers, Miss Parker, showed students how to paint a spooky jack-o'-lantern. And because of how successful this event was, we will be hosting another one in December. And to cap off our really busy month of October, we also held a virtual costume contest where 3 of our Mesa staff judges picked their favorites in the categories of scariest, most creative, and best duo/group costumes, which were again submitted through our Instagram. Now, having to do things virtually has presented the opportunity for ASB to partner with many different groups on campus to promote our student engagement. We've been working closely with our yearbook staff to provide them with pictures we receive from student submissions, with the art department to create those fun paint nights, and with our band, drama, and dance department to create our upcoming virtual rally, with our football, spirit squad, volleyball, and cross-country teams to create our weekly team highlights and senior spotlights for our winter athletes. And in terms of clubs, we currently have 8 clubs up and running, and we feel as ASB, it is our job to connect our individual groups on campus by advocating on their behalf and to promote their events. And one of those events being one hosted by our Brown Issues Club with their beautiful Dia de los Muertos event, which was done via Zoom. Now, as you know, we still have a long and uncertain year ahead of us, and we are just beginning to scratch the surface of our plans and festivities. We hope to continue on this path of innovation and the fresh income of ideas, as well as keep up with the positive feedback that we receive from our student community. And once again, I would like to thank the members of the board for allowing me their time and attention today. And I'm very gracious to speak in front of such a fine group of people on behalf of my school. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us and for the report. We always enjoy hearing directly from students. I'm going to see if my colleagues have any questions. Mr. Hernandez?
And no questions, thank you.
Ms. Costa?
No, thank you.
Ms. Creason?
Yes. So I have to kick it back to you and say it's wonderful to hear from wonderful students like you. That was a wonderful report. And I first want to acknowledge your first remarks. And I'm really, really sorry that you're not getting the senior year you absolutely deserve. It's heartbreaking and I know it's hard, but your positive attitude really is infectious and keep it up. But again, really, really sorry that you're not getting everything you deserve. LOL salad dressing theme. Never heard of such a thing. That's awesome.
I've been pushing it for the past 3 years and I finally got it.
You got it at senior year, right? Your salad dressing theme. That's awesome. I wanted to also note that it's so nice to hear that some of the activities are continuing, even though they're out of the box and it's in a different format. It's wonderful to hear that not everything just stopped and that sense of community is continuing to live. And thank you for your leadership in that way. And then also, I just want to extend, if you guys think about it, we live invitations, even if they're via Zoom. So if you think about it and you think it's something that we would, you'd want some board members to attend, please reach out.
For sure.
Dr. McKibben? Thank you very much for joining us. I am curious, as a senior, can you speak to a little bit about plans for next year as best as you can make them in the current environment? How is applying for things next year or scoping out things for next year? How does that look and how has that changed in COVID times for you?
Oh, like my college application process
Whatever,
or in
either
um
it doesn't have to be
I
perhaps you could be headed towards, the workforce or what have you, but I'm sure it's just a little bit different this year for our seniors.
Oh yeah. Personally, I feel more relieved that it's not added to the stress of going to school and stuff like that. Like I can do everything from the comfort of my house, from my room. Things are more simpler in terms of not having to take the SAT or like having to submit that sort of test format, not having that added stress on what's already happening in the world. So yeah.
Well, thanks for that feedback. Just always curious to hear how things are going. Thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
Can we applaud?
Thank you for having me.
Next up, we will hear from Mareem Salim from Miraloma. And
All right.
please, correct me if I mispronounced your name.
No, it's perfect. Okay. Hello, President Villescaz, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. I'm Reem Salim, ASB President, senior from Miraloma High School. And in these unpredicted times, our main focus was really trying to bring our usual school events and making them into like a digital format. And to start off, we had all of our ASB and class elections online, which actually ended up being more organized and doing it in person. And we also had our club rush this September, and we had over 60 clubs involved. And this was over Zoom. And, students were able to view multiple clubs' live presentations during different time slots. And then they signed up if they desired. And then overall, the feedback was really positive, and the majority of the students who participated were actually freshmen. And, to kick off the Halloween season, many contests were held to uplift the spirits. And this that included pumpkin decorating contest as well as door decorating contest. And these were all held through our social media accounts. And, with the week leading up to Halloween, we encouraged students to participate in spirit days, as well as the Halloween costume contest with different prize incentives. And all of these submissions are shared in our social media platforms. And, at Miraloma, we usually have a huge Dia de los Muertos festival every year. But instead, this year, our Spanish Honor Society, as well as Latinos Unidos, created a website for students to learn more about this day. And, the website included information and about the rich history and how it's celebrated. And it featured student art from Miraloma, informational videos, skits, and then videos that had singing, dancing, and other customs. And speaking of websites, our Matterware website actually launched, and it showcases all the Matterware we have available. And it kind of acts as a catalog for students to look through. And right now we're working on setting up a My School Bucks account so that students are able to pay for Matterware online. And we also have new Matterware coming this December, which includes the MataMasks. And, during this time, we noticed that with distance learning, it's really hard to navigate all the different websites and resources because there's just so many. So we created a Miraloma resources page that can be found in all of our social medias. And basically it organizes all the information and organizes like any possible link that a student might need. And this includes our latest video announcements, Miraloma Today, which is a journalism club on campus, different mental health resources, our school homepage, college and career center for our seniors, and then contact information for every class as well as every club and counselors and things like that. And its purpose is just to give easy access for students. And, due to all these online events, a concern for student government is definitely raising money for our classes for things like graduation. And, our school dances and our events are usually the biggest money makers. And obviously, for obvious reasons, we really can't do that this year. But however, we're looking forward to the My School Bucks account being set up because we're expecting big revenue from all the new Matterware that we ordered. And many of our students are working really hard to come up with new ideas that would get the students excited as well as generate revenue. And, as the semester is ending, more students are now better adapted to the online format and are doing much better academically than beginning of the year, including me. And, but like, there's still a struggle of keeping all the spirits up. That's why so many of us are really excited to come back in January if that does happen. Again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for your presentation and for joining us. I'm going to see if any of my colleagues have questions or comments. Mr. Hernandez?
No questions. Thank you for your report, though.
Ms. Costa? Ms. Creason?
Of course. So 60 clubs, wow, that's huge. And what an effort, what a heavy lift, especially in these times. That's so cool. And then also just, again, want to celebrate your leadership and keeping, doing what you can to keep up spirits and keep the school community feel alive in this hard time. And I would love a link to the website that was featured with all the student art and whatnot. So if you can get that to us, that would be great.
Of course.
Dr. McKibben?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and particularly as a Matador myself, I'm excited that, I continue to be worried that a lot of our kind of closely held traditions that happen at all of our schools won't happen. And I'm just so excited to hear people taking different spins on them. I hope they come back. I hope they come back with full life. But in the meantime, I am so appreciative at how our student bodies and with all of your hard work, folks are adapting. And I wish it didn't have to happen, but I'm thankful for all of your efforts as we navigate this crazy time. I have had a chance to look at the journalism website. It might be the same as the website you were just talking about, but I'll go take a closer look. But either way, I've been super impressed with all of the articles, particularly the large focus on mental health supports for schools. I really commend you for that. Thanks for addressing that and keeping a keen eye on that. And thank you very much for your report to both of you. We'd like to thank you for joining us. Student voice is very important to the board, and we really appreciate you being here this evening. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the evening, but we realize that you have homework and very busy lives that you just gave us a little bit of insight to. So we also invite you to return to those items at this moment if you would like. But thank you both very much for your report. And with that, we are at item E2, staff report. Mr. Curtin.
Thank you, President Villasquez. And we're going to go ahead and put the PowerPoint up. Thank you, Peter. Tonight, I wanted to take the opportunity to update the board and the community with some further details and thinking around the models we will be implementing when we return to in-person instruction. These three key considerations, maximizing health and safety, minimizing disruption, and an agile starting point, were at the forefront of our thinking when the district was looking at models. We have been continually meeting with the Teachers Association and discussing the various aspects and potential models of reopening our schools since the start of the pandemic. And we have been dealing with the ever-changing variables and guidelines. Through these meetings and negotiations, we have been unable to come to an agreement, so the district will be imposing a model when we do return to in-person learning. The Teachers Association has the right to demand the bargain the effects of this return, which they have communicated with us. This does not mean we will not continue to work together on this issue and others. These discussions on the effects have already started and will continue tomorrow as we have time set aside to meet and negotiate. So I want to speak to each of these key areas. And when I first look at the maximization of health and safety, some recent actions include making a change to our previous guidance related to masks, requiring masks for all students who return in person, purchasing additional plexiglass barriers for classrooms and schools, releasing our COVID-19 guidance titled Campus Safe Reopening Procedures and Requirements, as well as posting our COVID-19 dashboard, which provides an overview of positive test results and exposures impacting district schools. And I would encourage people to go to the website. We're trying to update that as frequently as we can. I was just reviewing that even earlier today, just before our meeting started. So I would encourage folks to do that. When we think about minimizing disruptions, we heard from many, many families and staff the desire and importance of keeping their current teacher, as well as teachers keeping their current students. In a time when there is so much uncertainty, we decided to go with a model that would keep students and teachers together to the greatest extent possible. This truly was a driving force in our decision. And in terms of an agile starting point, as we have seen this week, COVID-19 is unpredictable and hard to control. We are seeing significant spikes in our state and throughout the nation. I have family who live in Boise, Idaho, and I was speaking with them this past Friday, and they shared that their school district of about 25,000 students had to shut down until mid-January as they had over 1,500 students and staff quarantined. Locally, Placer Union has shut down for the next few weeks and will make a decision to return or extend that based on conditions in the coming weeks. So the models we have chosen have addressed these three considerations. Now let me address our communication that went out last week related to models. I first want to acknowledge that our communication rollout didn't go as planned on Friday and offer a sincere apology to our staff members who didn't receive the update until it had already been distributed to families. Our standard practice and process is to distribute major messages to our staff before they go public. The team thought that had occurred, and indeed more than 2,200 staff did receive the message when intended, but many didn't. Mistakes and errors will happen, but we must learn from them. Already the team has met to discuss what went wrong and steps that can be put in place in the future to help this not happen again. While there was no intent to cause stress or show disrespect, we know that that is the impact this error had on a large number of our teachers and staff, and for that we do sincerely offer an apology. I want to take some time to share with everyone tonight what the impacts would have been for our students and our staff if we had gone with a different model. We did not know all of these impacts until we got the results back from our parent survey. So I want to walk through this slide here and just share, when we look at our elementary school division, and I took a snapshot from, it was about the third week of school. We had 19,020 students in elementary enrollment. The survey shared with us that 25% of families said they want to stay in distance learning, 75% want to return. That is very, very different throughout this region. I've seen districts within Sac County, large districts, where only 30% want to return, 70% want to stay distance learning, 50-50. So that data really, we needed that data in order to drive our decision. So in looking at that, we would say that we had 4,755 students in distance learning when we were to return. So if we were to offer a model where teachers only taught students in person or teachers only taught distance learning, that's where we really ran into some challenges. So for these 4,755 students, we would need 191 teachers, dedicated classroom teachers, just to teach these students. We took a class average of about 25 students for that. We currently have 40 elementary classroom teachers with medical notices. We would have needed to identify another 151 teachers to shift them into this full-time distance learning. What that would have meant for a school site would have been that on average, we would have had to identify 3, 4, or 5 teachers per school, our 40 elementary schools, and shift them into distance learning. So if I'm a teacher and all of a sudden I have to go to distance learning, the students that I have been teaching, I could keep a handful that may have been my students in distance learning, and that I probably would have been teaching students from throughout the rest of the district distance learning. We really thought it was important for students to stay with their teachers as well as in their school community. And the interesting thing about these numbers is we've been following up with families this week. We've actually found that some of the people that did not respond to the survey have said they wanted to stay in distance learning. So likely that number of 4,700 probably would have went over 5,000, and we would have even needed to identify more than the 191 total teachers to do distance learning. So that's at the elementary level. Secondary level, same date snapshot, we had 18,392 students. Little different variance. We have about 30% of our secondary students say they want to stay in distance learning, and we took the average of kind of the 3 models just for this snapshot. A little over 5,500 students would have needed distance learning only. Again, we would have needed to identify 197 teachers, a little different staffing ratio. We actually used a staffing ratio, I think, of 28 or 28.5, because that's what we use when we calculate staffing with prep time involved in there. We currently have 47 classroom teachers with medical notices. We would have had to identify another 150 teachers that we would have had to shift there. So well over 300 teachers, and that's before, if those numbers were exactly right, if we had more students that wanted to go in distance learning. We ultimately would have shifted, no, on the next page I'll show you, over 10,000 students likely would have had to have a shift in their teacher. And my guess is that number would have went much higher, because if I'm a teacher and I'm moving in, I'm losing my students, and any teacher that's coming from another school to fill my spot, if that was needed, I'm now shifting my students as well. One of the other challenges that would have happened at elementary school was it's likely we would have been forced in some of the other models to create combination classes at every level. Because if we had 2 teachers at a grade level who were teaching, let's say 50 students, and now all of a sudden we only have 38, 37 return, we don't have enough staffing in the district to allow that type of small class size throughout the district. So we would have been forced to look at creating combination classes. That was something we were looking at throughout this as well. And again, over 300 teachers, likely significantly more than that, shifted from their current teaching position that they were in. We set a return date of January 5th for all students, and we continue to work towards this goal. But currently, under the state's guidance, we would be unable to return if we stay in the purple tier. We wanted to make sure we implemented a model that allowed us to move back in person whenever the conditions allow. That's that flexibility of when we could shift, as well as moving back to distance learning if the conditions were to worsen at some point, while minimizing the disruptions to our students, families, and staff. We have said this before, there is no perfect model, and that is why you see such a variance of models throughout the state, based on the needs of their community. We will continue to work with our students and families and our bargaining teachers, our bargaining partners, and the staff as we continue to maneuver through this pandemic. And at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Kern. We'll begin any comments or questions from board members with Mr. Hernandez.
No questions, Ken. I appreciate the detail and the informing the community where we are and what we're looking forward to. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Ms. Costa.
No question.
Ms. Creason.
Yes, I just want to note, in the communications I've received from the community, keeping classes intact and keeping teachers has definitely been one of the most highly prioritized issues that I've heard. I'm glad that we are looking at the communication faux pas, and that we're acknowledging it, and that we're going to try to, fix that. I'm really glad to hear that. I want to make sure I heard something correctly. Did I hear correctly that in an alternative model than what was selected, that we would have definitely had teachers teaching kids from all over the district, so we would be breaking up school communities?
If you stayed in distance learning, let's say, and I'll take an elementary school, for example. If one elementary school only had 8, 9, or 10 distance learners, we couldn't have a distance learning teacher teach only those students. So potentially you could try and create a distance learning combo class, which would be really difficult on a teacher as well. Or you could identify 10 students from, let's say, school X and school B and combine those together. Based on staffing and the number of teachers that we currently have, we would have likely had to make moves like that. Now, if we were to design this from the very start of the year and everybody had to commit to, you have to commit to distance learning for the entire year. You have to commit to homeschool for the entire year. You have to commit to in-person for the entire year. We could have built something way back then, but we wouldn't have allowed the flexibility. If we're still in this next year, that's likely what's going to happen in order for us to have our staffing match exactly the needs at the schools. Ms. Costa knows this because she staffed elementary schools for a lot of years, but there's a lot that goes into making sure you have the right staffing at each of the schools. So because we already had the right staffing numbers at the schools, we felt like the models we chose will address that. And I will share with you, again, because I've heard from people that it feels like it's a time like we're separating and we're still not talking to the unions. That's why I tried to address that. We hear their interest. I know one of them has to do with prep. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow. We're going to do everything we can to support the teachers going forward. There's no job that has changed more during this time than the job of the teachers. And I know this board has been committed to this. Leadership has been committed to supporting the teachers. And I know this model wasn't necessarily their model of choice, but again, I think if they had really been able to everybody understand the impact of teachers having to move from school to school in the middle of the year, or I may be teaching 4th grade at Arlington Heights and I come back after break, and because they don't need me at Arlington Heights, I'm now teaching 2nd grade at Dewey because that's where I'm needed. That's really what we were hoping to avoid, those type of shifts for staff as well as students.
Thank you. I appreciate that breakdown. And I also just want to call out the flexibility for families to change their mind in the middle, because situations are changing as the pandemic situations are changing for a variety of reasons. So the ability to go back to distance and go back to in-person, I think is key. And then one last question regarding slide 5, where the numbers like estimate of 10,000 kids and a few hundred teachers would have to do these shifts. With the model that was selected, are we saying that's 0 or just much less?
I'm hopeful that we can really have almost no shifts at all. Students should be able to stay with their teachers, because if I'm a distance learning student, I'm going to be and you're my teacher, Ms. Greason, I'm going to see you, in our models in the afternoons. Okay. If I'm a student that returns in person, I'm going to see you 2 days a week in morning, and I'll see you 2 days in the afternoon. Secondary schools, teachers will be able to have sections potentially that could be virtual sections. There is a possibility we may have to do some changes, even based on, let's say there's a member that can't return to work, but I know we're even trying to work through those challenges, and we've kind of spoken to some of those before because we have some real specialty classes as well. So we're hoping to avoid, I would like to say there would be none, but I don't want to 100% commit to that because there probably will be some shifts. I will share even the ability for that shifting to take place. I was on a call this morning with the superintendent from Folsom Cordova, and she said they were only in school 2 days last week. They've already had some classes shut down today, but she mentioned that as soon as the county went to purple, they had people change their mind and say, nope, we don't want to go to in-person. And we're going to kind of speak to that a little bit on our special education report too, that I think there are people that are significantly concerned about what the current conditions are in our community.
Thank you.
Dr. McKibben.
So we're operating on a morning afternoon kind of schedule rather than a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday kind of situation. Is that correct?
No, we are operating on students that would be in person would show up 2 days a week, AM in the morning. So you may come Monday, Tuesday. I would come Thursday, Friday. Tuesday or Thursday, Friday, you would be in the afternoons. So you would see your teacher. Our goal again was to make sure that we were having interaction with teachers 4 days a week. One of the things we learned from some other districts was that they were doing 2 days a week, and then there was 3 days where there was no connection at all to teachers. I think we said that when we were exploring models. We really wanted to avoid that, because in talking with superintendents in other districts and talking with administrators, parents, I live in a district where that's happening. That has not been successful in saying there's 3 days a week where my secondary student has no connection at all to staff. We wanted to make sure we were trying to have students connect with students or with their teachers 4 days a week, and the models do that.
Okay. So if I were a secondary social studies teacher, who would imagine that, is it possible that if I had a 5-period day, I would have 3 periods live and 2 periods distance when I was?
It could be that could definitely happen, and those are the types of things that we're probably going to be able to do without making shifts. Now, one of the reasons why we may potentially still make some shifts, if we see there are some hard to fill areas and we want to try and identify those as soon as possible, we may actually go at semester and hire some additional staff to fill some spaces where we go, oh, that's not going to work out so well. So that's where you could see a student that could have a shift with a teacher. Probably more likely that may happen at secondary than elementary, but I don't know.
And what is the difference between in this kind of model between the block schedule high school students and the more traditional schedule high school students? What is there a difference in how they will be treated?
There is, because you're not going to go to 6 periods a day. You're going to go to probably first, second, third one day, fourth, fifth, and sixth the next. So you would see your teacher 2 days a week for a longer period of time than if you were at a block. Now, the big challenge is we actually have 2 schools that are 7-period days, and that's creating some unique challenges as well. And again, our teams are meeting daily. The elementary team met again today. We're negotiating in a larger group tomorrow. The secondary teams are meeting to discuss, okay, what does that look like when you've got a block schedule, you got a 6-period day, and then 2 schools on a 7-period day. So they all create some unique challenges that we're working through.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and for kind of acknowledging the challenge around the communication. I know we all heard quite a bit about that. And I would also ask, I know back planning takes a lot of work, and even kind of making sure that all of our materials are, compliant and translated, that takes a lot of time. I would just ask that we consider trying to not drop big news on Fridays anymore moving forward. I know that I recognize a lot of planning goes into things, but I just think for a variety of reasons, particularly Friday afternoon drops on communities are just hard.
That was actually one of the first things Trent said to me in terms of lessons learned. So I think that's a piece that he and his team acknowledged right away as well. All right, the challenges were always, like, I think we had a lot of the documentation done midweek, but to get those, as you said, those translations done. And one of our other goals has been timely, transparent communication. But I don't think you'll be seeing any major communications being dropped on Friday afternoon going forward.
Much appreciated. I definitely let the ship sail on communications that everybody's happy about. Like we're not going to get there, that's for sure. But even just around the timing where we can at least have another business day or two for folks to kind of pick up the phone and ask questions. I think that'll be well received. I don't think that'll solve our challenges with not having a lot of favorable decisions to make right now, but it's certainly one step in the right direction. Thank you very much for the presentation, and seeing no further. Oh, Ms. Creasy.
I'm sorry, one follow-up
worries.
question. With the adoption of the new model, does this change anything with folks that are in school receiving special education, mod severe services?
No, we're still continuing those services at this time.
So that there's separate issues?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the public health guidance that the state's offered is basically sites that have opened in red can stay open in red, which would include so kind of what we've opened already can stay open.
Got it. And I guess I just wasn't sure if the model would be imposed.
Right, that's a separate question.
The model really, we're actually working through with the teachers group as well, what that model will look like. Because one of the challenges is if we have a certain amount of time for, let's take an elementary, and we're providing, and there's some transportation pieces in there, we may have to modify what the special ed piece looks like later on down the road. But again, we're working through all of that. Those are a lot of the challenging issues when you've got elementaries, you've got K-8s, you've got secondary schools, you've got blocks, 6 periods, 7 periods. You have these, we have schools that are learning centers, Ralph Richardson, Laurel Ruff, La Vista, that look very different than any other schools. So those schools could even look potentially different than a class that may be taking place on a comprehensive site.
And my thought is just, and I know folks are already thinking about this, but looping parents into those conversations if there's going to be a change as soon as possible, even if we're just exploring, so they know what's being explored. So they just have a heads up.
Yeah, in our roadmap to return, we talked about letting parents know what cohort they would be in by the 4th. I believe it is December 4th, a Friday. That's on the top of my head. I think that's a Friday. And also, we're hoping to work through the majority of the issues before we leave for Thanksgiving break. So that would be at the end of this week. But we've already communicated the model specifically to those groups. So, I think a lot of folks now are just watching, okay, what's happening with the conditions throughout the state. And I'm usually a pretty optimistic person. it's hard to be optimistic when you've seen what's happened just this last week, knowing what holidays are coming up. But we're going to make sure that we are ready to pivot when the time is there. And so we still have a lot to work through with our partners on that, but we'll get there.
Thank you.
Any other last questions or comments? Seeing none. We are at items E3 through E5. Mr. Allen, do we have any reports from board appointed district committees, employee organizations, or other district organizations?
I do not have any requests preset for district committees, but we do have a request for employee organizations from Mr. Bill Simmons with SJTA.
Okay, Mr. Simmons, please begin when you're ready. Just noting for our technical team that Mr. Simmons is not on the screen and cannot be heard.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Members of the board and Superintendent Kern, I come to you tonight representing the 2,300 plus members of the San Juan Teachers Association to express our upset with your decision to impose a hybrid model that our members do not support. In fact, 80% of elementary teachers express support for Model 1, which would allow for 4 half-day of in-person schooling for both AM and PM cohorts. The majority of our secondary members also indicated a preference for Model 1. In addition to 4 days of in-person schooling, Model 1 would have allowed our members who are medically compromised to be able to continue in distance learning with a virtual class for the students and families who choose to stay in distance learning. We do recognize the main challenge with Model 1 would have been the potential for reassignment of staff and students. We have several concerns about the model you've chosen to implement. We do not believe dividing a staff into 3 groups will allow for sustainable pacing of lessons for all 3 groups, nor do we believe providing 2 half days of in-person instruction per week is the best we can do for our students. Additionally, we have serious concerns about the workload this model creates for practitioners. It is important for the community and our members to know that we shared our member survey data and we expressed our concerns to you on several occasions, and yet you decided to implement this model anyway. Given your decision, we were forced to assert our right to demand to bargain the impacts on our members. Moving forward, the 2 main areas we need to address prior to any implementation are safety precautions and working conditions. Regarding safety precautions, I would like to take a moment and publicly acknowledge and thank you for quickly addressing one safety concern we've raised, that San Juan will now require face coverings for all students over age 2, with exceptions for medical reasons. But we have a long way to go and many additional concerns to address in order to create the safest possible in-person learning environment for students and staff. I need to raise another issue: how the model was communicated. We are extremely disappointed that the district communicated the physical reopening plan with the public before ensuring all of the employees in the district had been informed, causing confusion, creating distrust, and inciting feelings of disrespect. Many of our members received calls and emails from students and families asking questions about a model that the members were completely unaware of. This created a sense of concern by parents and of helplessness for our members. Missteps like this undermine trust in the district. I want to close by saying our members continue to work incredibly hard every day to provide the best educational experience they can in our current reality. What we want is to be back in school with our students as soon as it is safe to do so. We ask our San Juan community, and especially the parents attending this meeting, to help us get back to in-person schooling by wearing a face covering outside the home, staying 6 feet apart from others, avoiding gathering indoors with people not in your household, and remembering to wash your hands. By each of our individual actions, we can collectively reduce the infection rates in our area and get students physically back in school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Are there any other reports from board-appointed district committees, employee organizations, or other district organizations? Mr. Allen?
There are not.
Okay. We are now at item E6, and there are no closed session actions to report. So we are at item F, visitor comments. Mr. Allen, will you please give instructions to those in attendance via Zoom on how they can raise their hand if they have comment at this time?
I would be happy to, President Villescaz. If you have joined us on Zoom tonight and would like to offer a public comment, you can do so at this time. If you would like to offer a comment on an item that is not on tonight's agenda. If you would like to offer a comment on something that is agendized tonight, we would ask that you hold your comment for that item, as we will call for comment on each of tonight's business items. If you'd like to offer a comment on something that is not on the agenda, this would be your opportunity to do so by raising your hand. You can click the raise hand button found at the bottom of your screen if you're on a mobile device, the bottom of the attendee list if you are on a desktop client for Zoom, or by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad if you've dialed into the meeting tonight.
Mr. Allen, do we have any general visitor comments at this time?
We do have 5 hands raised at this time, and I do have several written comments that have been submitted as well.
Okay, I will just give one more reminder and then we'll turn to the raised hands. I'd like to remind the public that comments are limited to 2 minutes. The clock on the screen counts down the time. Under the Ralph M. Brown Act, the board is not allowed to comment on items that are not on the agenda, so we are not ignoring your comments. We just can't respond to any individual comments. The superintendent can refer items to staff who can follow up with you.
Thank you, President Villescaz. Our first public speaker is Zachary Erickson.
Hi, board members, Superintendent Kern, and everyone else listening in. Thank you for the presentation. The most striking thing to me is that 75% of parents have said that they would like to go back into in-person learning. To me, this is 75% of parents are saying that they kind of disapprove of how the district has been operating over the last few months. I think you guys really should let that sink in about how important and how lopsided it is that parents and the community want their children back in school. As far as the discussion of the various models comes into place, I think anything that gets the kids into school is going to have better outcomes than having parents teach their children, which parents haven't been educated and trained and know how to properly teach children, and the results are showing. So whatever model you choose, I would just caution to keep it simple. Usually it's the simple solution is the best. I don't know why live streaming each in-person classroom for those kids that choose to be distance is not feasible, but that seems like a simple solution. Lastly, you're going into negotiations tomorrow with the union. I sense in everyone's voice the sensitivity of communicating with teachers and the constituents. And I understand that there's going to be negotiations, but I want you to take in there with the stance that plenty of unionized workers have been deemed essential and have been reporting to work over the last 8 months. Teachers haven't, so they should be able to, you should look at them as essential workers and should report to work at.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. And our next comment will be from D. Fitz.
Good evening, board members. First, I want to start off by saying that I very much appreciate all the hard work that is going into this, trying to schedule things, trying to manage all these kids. I can only imagine the headache that it is. So I do appreciate all the work that is going into it. That said, as someone who works at Walmart, if I can be an essential worker and deal with literally hundreds of people coming through daily, I'm pretty sure your teachers can get out there and deal with our kids in the controlled environment of a classroom. So when you start negotiating, you might want to mention that. If somebody who works at Walmart can do it, I'm pretty sure our teachers can handle it. Your distance learning survey, which was actually registration, which was fine with me, was really flawed. I got an email saying I didn't vote. I got a phone call saying I didn't vote. And then I got an email saying I did vote. I made sure I contacted the school personally to say I wanted my kid back in person for whatever you guys were offering. But I don't believe that the votes were counted. Obviously, mine were overcounted. So that's very concerning to me. Everybody's vote should have counted in this district, whether they want their kids back in or not. My other concern is that when I received an announcement that CASA had some student announcements, I logged in to YouTube, watched the video, and saw these students making light of cyberbullying. Another student had videoed himself breaking into someone's house. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny or Halloweeny or what. And he had very inappropriate symbols written behind him. The school did not appear to be concerned about this. I am concerned about this. It wasn't a student announcement. Thank you for your time tonight. Good luck getting us all scheduled.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment will be from Louisa Burke.
Good evening, board members, parents, and members of the community who are attending today. I'd like to spend a little bit of time today, I guess a little bit under 2 minutes, talking about the 4 core values that the San Juan Unified School District has put on the website and is part of the mantra and the core values of what this board and this school district stand for: to educate, to inspire, to succeed, and to contribute. And unfortunately, with my short time being an active parent in the San Juan Unified School District, I have found that there are some definite areas of deficiency in many of these, and these 4 areas of how distance learning has been handled. I'd like to primarily focus on to educate. Academically, distance learning is failing as children are staring at a screen for several hours and not engaging with other students or teachers in the classroom. And it should be expected that the district will hold up its obligation to Article 9, Section 1 of the California Constitution. California has assumed the specific responsibility for a statewide public education system that is open on equal terms to all, and with several other schools being open or having open learning plans, this school board is not meeting the requirements under the California state constitution. And while you've taken many measures and have done a lot of hard work in trying to get the students back to school, it seems like having the students on campus for under 6 hours a week under the new plan is still lacking and not meeting the requirements under the California Constitution. So thank you for your hard work in this area, but please, as you are moving forward, it would behoove the board to focus on how educating, inspiring, and succeeding and contributing to the students' well-being is best served, and that is on campus in person.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker will be Kara Tovar.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm speaking to you tonight as a parent and an educator in a neighboring district. I'm very concerned that the superintendent and the board are moving forward with plans to reopen for in-person instruction in January, despite the fact that Sacramento County is once again in the purple tier. This pandemic is even worse than it was when schools initially closed. As an educator and a single parent, I recognize how tough these times are to continue with distance learning. However, I don't understand the rush to bring students back to in-person learning in the height of cold and flu season as the pandemic rages on. Students and staff will be infected if we return for in-person instruction in January. One may say you have the option to keep your kids in distance learning. The issue is that distance learning is not equitable. As a parent, I was forced to choose between keeping my children safe and sacrificing the quality of their education. 90 minutes versus 2.5 hours of instruction is not equitable. Distance learning is not ideal. However, I ask the board and the superintendent to put aside politics and act in the best interest of the health and the safety of students and staff. I ask you to rethink your decision to reopen schools for in-person learning in January. And lastly, I'd like to point out that the survey failed to ask whether we wanted to continue in distance learning as is. And I felt my voice wasn't heard as a parent, and that I was only asked if given one of these models, if I would continue with distance learning. And that is clearly not equitable. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment will be from Carrie Weiner.
Carrie, please, when you're ready.
I'm just waiting for the clock to start.
Appreciate your patience. Thank you.
As a founding member of the Facebook page for parents and teachers for the San Juan School District that want kids back in school, there are 450 of us in the school district that have said we want our kids back. It is very disheartening and frustrating to hear that the model we want, which is 4 days a week, you are not only ignoring the parents in this district, but you are also ignoring the teachers. As a kid with special needs, you have put them on the back burner. I'm happy that Mod Severe got back, but my child that has an IEP, who's doing multiple Zooms a day with his speech therapist, his APE, his resource teacher, why are you not talking about getting these kids back as well as Mod Severe? I've heard no plans to get our kids with IEPs back, and you are currently violating their IEPs. I would also encourage you to stop sending out surveys that you don't know will work. None of your surveys have worked, and this last survey you promised us, you're working on it, it's going to be great, and it's not. Stop looking at neighboring counties and neighboring schools and focus on our district. Focus on what the teachers want. Focus on what the parents want. We've been telling you clearly what we want, and it's our kids back in school. The solution seems simple, and you seem to not be listening. We encourage you to continue to think about the special ed kids and the regular kids that need to get back. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is from Kristen Srabji.
As you know, some laws pertaining to education this year have changed, one being a change to the required number of instructional minutes. Even with the decrease in those minutes, it became very clear very quickly that San Juan Unified School District was and continues to fail to provide my kindergartner with the legally required 180 minutes of instructional time. I reached out to our principal at Del Deo Elementary School to express my concerns, and her response, and I quote, was kindergarten is not mandated. regardless of whether or not kindergarten is mandated the second that San Juan Unified School District accepted financial compensation from the state of California for not only my child, but every other kindergartner the district has. The district became responsible for educating our children. After receiving such a horrific response to my concerns from someone considered an educator, I reached out to an educational law attorney, and under his guidance and recommendations for the last 6 weeks, I have timed, recorded, and documented every synchronous and asynchronous minute of instructional time my child has received. Over the last 6 weeks, there has not been one day in that he has received the required 180 minutes. In fact, he received between 106 and 110 minutes a day, well below the required 180 minutes. With that being said, if my child returns after the Thanksgiving break and I do not see an increase in his instructional minutes, I will be moving forward with a lawsuit against San Juan Unified School District. And to be perfectly transparent, I have already sent the district's proposed model of in-person learning to the attorney I've been working with for his review. Because if the district thinks that I would allow my children to go even one day without live instruction from their teachers, which the law requires for students in distance learning, without a fight, you are truly mistaken and have underestimated the determination I have as a mother whose children are being denied their legal rights.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is from Margot Frost.
Hello, board members. First of all, thank you for all the thought that you've put into this plan. But I do have to agree with some of the other parents in saying that the stress on us as parents to implement distance learning has been tremendous. I have had my child's school require monthly material pickups that are scheduled during class time, which leaves us in the position of either having to take the children out of class and have an unexcused absence or pick up their required materials. When I inquire with my child's school about an after hours pickup, I was told that they could leave it with a janitor and we could, quote, hunt him down. My husband and I have had to heavily modify our work schedules, hire tutors, and get outside assistance with trying to get our children to grade level. When we attempt to get help from the school, we are told that there is nothing they can do. The responsibility of teaching and engagement falls entirely on us, even then we are being told that it's not enough. I am also an essential worker and I'm pulling double duty without the training, pay, or education. Please keep this in mind when you attend bargaining with the teachers union. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is from Alicia Rose Daniel.
Good evening. I'm actually Daryl Daniel, but I wanted to touch on the fact that the survey that the district put out was inefficient. It did not ask specifically what we would choose if our kids went back to school. Instead, it tried to step around what our preference was. The school district failed yet again on a survey. Myself, having been an essential worker, I've been at work the entire time, as well as all of my union brethren have been at work the entire time, unable to work distance. So to bow to the union at this point for the teachers union would be unacceptable. The large amount of work my wife has had to take on to teach our children due to distance learning is unfair to place on the parents at this time. If by January we do not have the ability to return our kids to school where they should be, we're going to have to move them outside of the San Juan district. It's the inability to figure this out is unacceptable. And also, I hope that Kristen lawsuit becomes a class action lawsuit and many other parents are able to join in. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is from Tanil Stewart. Ms. Stewart, you are still on mute.
Hello, my name is Mara, and I am a fifth grade student at Mr. Avenue Elementary School. I feel strongly that we should go back in person full time because it's harder. I like my teacher, but it is harder to do all of my work and for me to learn with distance learning. I would really like it if we could go back in person when sooner than January, even if it is Lucy.
Anything else to say?
I would really like it to go back in person. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is from Chris Carte, and I apologize on the pronunciation of that last name.
Hello, board members. Thank you so much for this time. I would really just like to say thank you so much for all the work that you guys have been putting into trying to get us back into school. One thing I'd like to point out is Mr. Simmons' comment with regards to mistrust. Last board meeting, he said, and I quote, that students and teachers are hitting a stride with distance learning. That's a complete farce. You know, every single parent that I have spoken to throughout the district, they're having issues with their students being at home. So for him to actually say that is just completely out of left field. And on top of that, with regards to sending out communication from the teachers union doesn't even pull the teachers that they have to make sure that the communication that they're sending out is exactly what the teachers want to say. So I just want to make sure, and I want to be loud and clear, that when we talk about mistrust, that Mr. Simmons is not speaking for all parents and students throughout the district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is from Kayla Chambers.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. I wanted to address the comment that was said earlier about if Walmart employees can be at work, so should teachers. This is like comparing apples and oranges. Walmart employees aren't stuck in a small room with poor ventilation for hours at a time with groups of students. This just isn't a fair comparison. The next thing I wanted to address was I'm not understanding with this model how 2.5 hour in-person days with a crazy schedule will benefit our students more than safely staying in a consistent distance learning model or something that was more consistent where we had the 4 days a week AM PM type schedule. It just seems impossible not only for the teachers to manage, but also for parents to manage. They're going to be having to get their students to school 2 days a week for 2 hours at a time. It's not going to give the result I think that parents are wanting. They're wanting their kids back in school. This isn't going to look like a normal school day. 2.5 hours, 2 days a week just is not enough if we're considering going back in person. The next thing I wanted to address with that is that as a teacher, I really have concerns surrounding the workload that this model presents and the level of support that I'll be able to provide to my students when I feel like it's pulling me in so many different directions. The last comment I would like to make is that I still just truly can't understand how the district can completely disregard the professional opinion of their teachers. We were asked what we felt was best for our students, and we responded, and that was completely ignored. And that just really still doesn't sit right with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is from Sabrina Bernardo.
Hello, board. I just had a quick concern. It is my understanding that the homeschool option is full with a wait list. I'm concerned with more people, you guys going against what parents and sounds like the teachers union wanted to go back 4 days a week as much as possible. And with that option, I feel like a lot more people are going to want to do homeschool because you guys are still not listening to the parents or teachers again. But with that, it sounds like the only option is to do a private homeschool all by yourself, nothing through the school district. And with that, when you do private, there is no funding for us to get resources. So that's a concern of mine. And what are you guys going to do? We need more teachers to move over to homeschool at this point, and we are still paying taxes, and you are still getting money from us, and we still can't even get our kids educated in a way that works for us. So that is a huge concern for me. So I hope you guys look into the homeschool option for San Juan Unified School District families and figure that out, because more people are going to want to switch. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is from Jeremiah Allen.
This is actually Jeremiah's mom. I just wanted to say that I support our teachers. I think that they have all, of the many different teachers between middle school and elementary of my kids, have done an excellent job thus far. And I support all of them in that, and I appreciate all that they've done. So far, we haven't had any issues with the distance learning. And while I want my kids to go back to school, I think whatever option that they support, I support. And the second thing I really wanted to say was I appreciate that they brought up the face coverings for all students. It makes me feel much more comfortable sending my child back in second grade when all students are wearing a face covering. I'm a nurse, and I think that that is very important that even the second graders and below wear face coverings. So thank you.
And thank you for your comment. Our next comment is from Haley Heller.
Hi there. Thank you for listening to me. I'm coming to you as a parent of 3 kids in the San Juan Unified School District, but at 2 different schools. I struggle with everything my kids have had to go through since March. I'm concerned with the learning loss, the screen time, the lack of socialization, the lack of physical education, the pen to paper. One of my children does not do any pen to paper work at all, and he's in 4th grade. My other child has an insane amount of work and is working far more than her brother 2 grades above her. I'm struggling with the inconsistencies with everything. I'm struggling with balancing my TK student at another school. And I'm really concerned, and I want you guys to take this into consideration, that we don't have Discovery Club. We don't really have childcare at all. And we're going to have our kids going back for these weird hours. And I would hope that you would consider putting them into groups that work with driving to and from school, meaning I have 1 kid going to Del Deo, and then I will have 2 other kids going to another school, and somehow balancing that all by myself. So that's something that I had a lot of thought about. And I would really hope that you take the time to consider what the teachers have wanted. And I've talked to many of them, and they all want 4 days. The parents want 4 days. And we need to take what they are saying and go off of that. That is what matters. Safety, of course, matters, but we need to make it all work. This is going to be almost a year if we don't go back in January. Thank you.
And thank you for your comment. President Villescaz, that was the final person to have their hand raised.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. Just quick mic check. You can hear me, correct?
I can.
Okay. Thank you to all of those that joined us for visitor comments. At this time, we will move to item G, our consent calendar. Mr. Allen, do we have any public comments for items that are on the consent calendar?
We have not received any written public comment for items on the consent calendar. However, if you have joined us via the Zoom meeting and would like to offer a comment on an item that is on the consent calendar, now would be your opportunity to do so, again, by raising your hand. You can find that raise hand button at the bottom of your screen on your mobile device, the bottom of the attendees list on a desktop client, or by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad. And we do not have any hands raised, President Villescaz.
Do any board members wish to remove any items from the consent calendar?
I don't want to remove anything, but I'd like to make a comment if that's okay, before we move. I would just like to request staff report as a business item for item G8 in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Creason. Want to make sure, Mr. Hernandez, you're good to go?
Yeah, no comment.
Is there a motion to approve items G1 through G14?
So move.
Been moved by Ms. Creason. Is there a second?
Second.
Been seconded by Dr. McKibben. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That was unanimous. With that, we are at item I1, special education update. Dr. Calvin, please begin when you are ready.
Thank you. Good evening, President Villescaz, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. Tonight, Director Vanessa Adolphson, along with the principals and special education practitioners from Arden Middle School and Coyle Elementary, will present a special education update to the board that will include an overview of special education in-person assessments and details regarding our in-person moderate, severe, and self-contained programs. And with that, Director Adolphson, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, President Villescaz, Superintendent Kern, members of the board, and Ms. Cunningham. Tonight, you will hear about our special education department updates on in-person assessments and the return of our students to the building. Just to give you an idea of what updates we're going to be talking about tonight are our return of the mild, mod, severe to self-contained on campus. As you can see, our bus drivers here ready to roll. I'd like to thank our teams we partnered with to make this happen. It truly was a collaborative effort moving it back into the building. The week of September 14th, site teams began planning for in-person assessments. Due to leaving unexpectedly in March, there were close to over 200 pending initial assessments. This number did not include some of our speech. Each full assessment for one student can take up to 20 hours depending on the coordination. Our team is currently working actively to reduce the number of initials, and we have completed approximately 129 in-person assessments. Our one-on-one in-person assessments, as you can see, followed all of the safety guidelines with proper PPE, including plexiglass between the students and the assessor. We have set up rooms like this at many sites across the district. This particular setup is at our Kenneth office, which we have 3 available. Tonight, you would hear from our Arden assessment team on their in-person preparation process. I'd like to introduce Stephanie Malia, our principal, and practitioner Michelle Kelly. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. I wanted to speak a little bit about preparation, and then Michelle Kelly is one of our special education teachers, and she can talk a little bit about the assessment process herself. When we first received notification that we would be holding assessments, I would say that the 2 biggest factors in getting that off the ground successfully would be communication and coordination. We communicated with our psychologists, our special education teachers, our other practitioners, such as our speech language therapist, in order to determine what our room needs would be, in order to outline a process for setting up the calendar, for checking students in, making sure families knew where they could wait safely. Also ensuring that we had the proper PPE, and in communicating with our custodian regarding cleaning needs before and after each assessment. So we really did a lot of legwork beforehand just to make sure that everybody was felt comfortable, felt safe, that we had rooms that had ventilation, that were set up properly, and also that everybody was in communication about check-in and a calendar, so we were all on the same page. And I think the process really on our end after that coordination has been very, very smooth. And I'd like to hand it over to Michelle Kelly now so she can talk a little bit more about the process of assessments herself.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you, President Velasquez, members of the board, Superintendent Korn, and the San Juan community. As Stephanie related to, I think key components were transparent communication, in addition to just a systematic routine of following the guidelines, the PPE. The communication with families has been going wonderfully. We make phone calls the night before. Families are very receptive of it, very, inclusive about what they need to do when they come on campus, as well as throughout our team on site have developed a shared Google Calendar, which is an easy way for us to make sure who's on campus when, and so also for our custodians as to when they need to do some of the cleaning. The systematic routine of following it consistently from family to family has been very successful. And I would say the only two challenges, obviously, as a practitioner, is maintaining that 6 feet of distance. We always try to establish rapport with our participants and lower their effective filter as much as we can. And obviously that 6 feet doesn't really lend itself to being that user friendliness that we like to establish. And then sometimes parents are a little frustrated when we ask them to stay on campus instead of just a drop and go, because they're busy, they have essential things that they need to tend to as well. But for the safety of their child, we definitely need them to be there in case anything were to happen on site.
Thank you. Our first day of school was November 2nd. We opened 29 classes for our students with moderate to severe disabilities. The school day runs 4 hours, 4 days a week, with Wednesdays as asynchronous learning. We have 5 high schools, 2 middle schools, 7 elementary, 2 preschools, and 3 special ed centers currently open. Currently, we serve approximately 918 moderate to severe students in San Juan. We had close to about 472 families interested in returning to in-person learning. And after the first week, the number did reduce to 406. As of today, we have approximately 324 students in the building. We have had a reduction in number of students for various reasons and concerns, mostly with either the students wanted to stay with their teacher in distance learning, or there was a rise in a particular area for COVID cases. I would now like to introduce James Reinhardt, principal at Coyle, along with practitioner Josh Brulé, who have successfully opened a mild moderate ED class at Coyle Avenue.
Hello, and thank you. I'm James Reinhardt, principal at Coyle, and I'm just going to take a minute, and Josh is here to help us talk through the day, but take a minute to talk about the planning that went into reopening not only our 3rd through 5th grade ED program, but also an ASD preschool as well too on site. So the reopening has gone really, really smoothly, and it's a big part of the amazing team that came together to plan. We had people from behaviorists to program specialists to supporting teachers to the teacher to the IAs really taking time to plan over a couple of things, including things like room arrangement, how we could follow all the guidelines of spacing and still give kids a space where they're taping off spaces where they would know where their desk goes, things like that. We also planned around how kids could move around the classroom. This includes things like procedures like lining up at the end of the day or going up to recess or going to wash hands or bathroom. We also took a look at knowing that the day was going to be very different from distance learning. We went from being online, which is a much shorter period at once, to being in class for 4 hours straight. We knew that might add a demand to some students that might be frustrating for. So we took some time to plan around what the day could look like with academics, social emotional, having recess, also kind of planning around use of rewards and breaks. That even included things like mask breaks, knowing that kids might not be used to wearing a mask for 4 hours. So giving that opportunity if a kid needs it to be able to go outside for a couple minutes away from others to kind of take that break that is needed. It also took planning around if behaviors do arise, how the team could address those with the use of space and outside on the campus. We also talked about use of PPE that could include things like gloves, face shields, different things to utilize to keep staff and students safe. The other thing that went really smoothly, I think helped with reopening too, as well is that we met at one point with the IA team, or the team of IAs that were coming back. The teacher, Josh Burley, was part of that program, and our program specialist was also part of that, Eric Anderson. And we were able to kind of talk through some of their concerns. So we went over some of the training and planning, but also just kind of listened to their fears and concerns of returning, and able to take that time to problem solve and really kind of just be open and listen. And I feel like that helped alleviate a lot of concerns and maybe some fears and anxiety about coming back. Preschool was very similar process. The only difference was around how to utilize centers safely and manipulatives as well. And, splitting up manipulatives so not kids aren't using the same manipulatives over and over and sanitizing them as well too. And I think Josh is going to say this in a moment, but it's been really great to have the kids back, and the kids have been super excited to be back. We probably really honestly overplanned and did not end up using a lot of the rewards that we thought we might need, because the kids have just been super excited to see their peers and staff around. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh here for a moment so he can kind of talk more about what it's like in the classroom and in person as he's been supporting.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about our return to in-person learning at Coyle Avenue Elementary School. When we first found out that we would be returning to in-person learning, the team at Coyle was both excited and anxious. We had concerns and questions surrounding our capacity to function effectively given the circumstances. Our special education assistant director, program specialists, and the school principal did an excellent job facilitating discussions and collaboration with our team, hearing our concerns and problem solving the unique social, emotional, and academic needs of the students being served in our specialized program. Through these discussions, we were able to hold collaborative staff meetings with administrators, teachers, and instructional assistants to provide information regarding the health and safety guidelines, as well as answer any questions surrounding our preventative and reactive strategies to deal with any behavior that comes. These meetings helped to alleviate much of the anxiety and provided us with the information we needed to feel comfortable returning. On the first day returning to school, the students returned with smiles on their faces and visible excitement on their body language. Some students arrived on the bus while others were dropped off by their parents. Upon entering the classroom, it was clear that students were happy to regain their face-to-face interaction with the teachers, instructional assistants, and peers. The classroom may have looked much different than previously, with desks being spaced out, excessive furniture removed, hand sanitizer at every corner, and staff wearing PPE. But these changes were quickly accepted by all of the returning students. While we anticipated and planned for students to need many breaks from wearing a mask and the demands of the classroom, we were pleasantly surprised when most of the students had already built stamina with wearing a mask. Additionally, the students understood the need for hand washing on a regular basis and have responded well to the new protocols for keeping the room clean and safe for everyone. From the first day, our focus has been on building positive relationships with the students and providing instruction in accordance with each student's individualized education plan. A day in the classroom consists of instruction in language arts and math with an emphasis on the essential standards, as well as direct instruction in social emotional skills, providing modeling and time to practice. Being in person allows us to utilize formative assessments and quickly adapt lessons as needed. Students are also receiving their designated instructional services via Zoom from the classroom and participating in art and PE. The 7 students that we currently have chosen to return are making progress toward their academic and social emotional goals, as well as gaining social interaction with their peers and teachers. We are all working really hard to maintain a safe and clean environment where the students can thrive, and I look forward to continuing this work. I'm also very thankful for the administration's leadership, the custodial staff, and instructional assistants who helped to facilitate a successful return at Coyle Avenue.
Thank you, Josh and James. Something new this year is Special Education Administration team meets with families bi-monthly, one in the morning and one in the evening session to accommodate family schedules. This has given us opportunity to share program updates, but has also given us a parent voice. In partnering with the FACE office, we've also been offering weekly parent workshops hosted by our special education department. This series just recently concluded, And we're hoping to, from our parent meetings, the bi-monthly meetings, we're hoping to get new ideas on what things that families would like to have as we move forward into the spring semester. Finally, I'd like to say thank you as we partnered with Mr. Camarda and Mr. Ralston and Mr. Cavello to offer safety guidelines and preparation for our site teams. This really has truly been a collaborative effort and to ensure that all of the needs for in-person assessment, as well as to get our classrooms up and running. They have been extremely responsive to all questions as we continue to provide the in-person learning to our students. Thank you.
Thank you, staff, for the presentation. Before I move it to my colleagues for questions or comments, I'm going to check in with Mr. Allen. Do we have any public comments on this item at this time?
I do have one individual with their hand raised already, but I will also remind folks that if you would like to offer a public comment on this specific item, now would be your opportunity to do so. And if you've joined us via the Zoom meeting tonight, to do that, you would raise your hand by clicking that raise hand button at the bottom of your screen on the mobile device, the bottom of the attendee list on your desktop client, or by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad if you've dialed into the meeting tonight. And with that, we still have one hand raised. Are you ready to proceed with public comment, President Villescaz?
Yes, thank you.
Our first comment then will be from Sheila Yulberg.
I'm so sorry, that was by mistake. Multitasking.
No problem. In that case, we do not have any public comment on this item, President Villescaz.
We thank you for joining us. At this point, I'll turn it to my colleagues then, and we will start with Mr. Hernandez.
I just want to publicly thank all those involved to helping us get back to school for our special ed and severe mod. It's an example of when everyone works together and how we can make something happen. And I just appreciate all the teachers and staff and administrators that made it possible. And yes, we're continuing to learn, and we will continue to learn as we move forward. But again, I just want to emphasize the importance of working together and how we can do great things when we put our minds to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Ms. Costa?
I was a little surprised, however, by the number of students whose parents decided not to have them come back. About 2/3 of the kids didn't come back. And I know Ms. Dawson has done an amazing job. So I hope you'll be able to, the board communication, talk to more parents, tell us more than you echoed.
Ms. Costa, I apologize for interrupting. We cannot hear you. Can you do a mic check really quick?
It was turned on for a minute. And we'll try it again.
We could hear.
Now we can hear you.
Couldn't hear you.
Okay. So I echoed what Mr. Hernandez said. It was good to have the students back. I was surprised that 2/3 of the parents have not sent the students back. And I said that I know that Ms. Adolphson has done an amazing job of connection with the community. So I hope, is the mic still on?
You're good to go.
Okay.
Yep.
I hope that there can be a board communication as she finds out more. Obviously, the reason that Mr. Kern had stated earlier, parents wanting their students to stay with the teacher that they were most familiar with makes sense to me. But I'm wondering if there are other reasons, and if she hears those, if she'll communicate with us, because I would be interested in knowing why our families didn't send their students back. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to the team for the Meet the Teams meetings that are held twice, both an evening and a morning meeting. I've been able to attend some of those, And I've been able to attend 2 of the parent workshops, and I was very impressed with the quality of work that the staffs are doing to reach out and to provide parent education to our families. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. Ms. Creason.
Thank you for the report. First, I want to start with a question that I'm not sure that I understood correctly. One of the presenters had mentioned that parents are asked to stay on campus with their student. And I believe that's while assessments are taking place. Did I hear that right? Okay, thank you, Superintendent Kern. I want to share, I was lucky enough to visit Ralph Richardson and Laurel Ruff in the last couple of weeks. And it was so fabulous to be back on campus. And I was so impressed by just how the system worked. Just cleaning happening, students being engaged, everyone, I mean, there was no chaos, everyone seemed, it seemed seamless. It was really, really inspiring to see and a lot of happy faces. And I know that a lot of work went into making that happen. And I know it was a long road for families to get there. So I'm just really appreciative of all the work it took to get there and all the patience it took in the meantime. One thing that I'm wondering about is, this report was fabulous. It's always wonderful to hear from the field, but I'm wondering if in the future we could also incorporate voices of students and families in these reports. Maybe some folks from the CAC committee could offer their perspective as well. I think that would be helpful for the board to hear too.
Thank you, Ms. Creason. Dr. McKibben.
Wanted to go back and ask the speakers from Coyle and Arden. In our run-up to this, there had been a great deal of concern that the students would not keep their masks on and so forth. It sounded to me particularly that was not an issue. Can any of you talk to that?
Yeah, no, we haven't had, we thought we had actually planned for them to have breaks thinking that they were going to need them more. And Josh can speak to it too if he wants, but they've really been great about wearing them and really respecting that. So we haven't had any issues whatsoever.
And I would say the same thing for the in-person assessments. When they come to test, they're there for a purpose. It's been clearly outlined with them and their family, as well as the way we're all dressed. I mean, obviously we're wearing masks and things that we don't normally wear when we're testing. So the tone is very serious with regard to the health guidelines, while it is also serious to try to get valid measurements of their progress to date.
And I would just add to the only time I think it's been anything is the ASD preschool. It's a little more challenging with, obviously, just due to the age group and the disability.
Thank you, Dr. McKibben. And, to that question, I think it just speaks a little bit to how I think if we set an example as a community, usually our children will follow. I'm not that shocked about it, pleasantly surprised to hear about it. I think it's in furtherance of our recent change to requiring masks for all students. And I just hope and implore our community to keep setting that good example. Thank you very much to all of the staff and the teachers and families who have made this possible. I know I was just absolutely thrilled when we got started on November 2nd, and I was not expecting how hard it would hit me emotionally just to see kids back in classrooms. It was just so uplifting, and it was a very, very bright spot. And I hope we can continue making some progress. I know things generally don't look that great in terms of where we're trending, but it was just such a joy to see. And I was also able to make it to Laurel Ruff earlier today. And also, again, pretty consistent mask compliance and just really good protocol following. And I felt I felt safe on campus, and I'm looking forward to doing more visits, and just want to thank everybody who's put in hours upon hours upon hours to make this happen. I had a similar question along the lines of what Ms. Costa asked in terms of kind of our enrollment and our trends. And my hope is as we continue that hopefully we can at least maintain that enrollment, if not even slowly have some of our families feel a little bit more secure with sending their kids. And I'm just wondering, do we have certain sites where they have maintained that enrollment pretty confidently? And is there an opportunity for folks to share out best practices? Because we're all learning this together. And I think it could just be an opportunity for folks to hear from each other, what's working, what's not, and an opportunity to maybe bring some of our stuff, more of our students back. And I welcome any thoughts from our practitioners who've joined us or from other staff on that.
Vanessa, any comments on that?
I was just going to ask Josh if he would speak on behalf of his experiences in terms of being in the classroom with the students and what their enrollment has been pretty consistent.
Yeah, our enrollment has actually climbed. So we started with only 4 students and we've gone up to 7 now. And I think some of it was just the initial anxiety from parents to see how it would go. And then being able to communicate what we're doing to keep the classroom safe and how the other students have responded. And then with that, they've decided to give it a try. And so we're increasing our enrollment.
Great. That's really great to hear. And I think just kind of what you just spoke to is really, really important. Being able to kind of set the example and communicate that, you know, we're mitigating risks as much as possible and it is safe to come back, and then communicating with other practitioners some of those best practices that just might help move the needle a little bit further. But I'm so excited about the progress that we've made, and I just want to say thank you again to everyone who's made it possible.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comment at this time, we will move to item I2, Family and Community Engagement Update. Mr. Allen.
Good evening, President Vasquez, members of the board, and Superintendent Kern. Tonight, Director of Family Engagement and Partnership Development, Lisa Borrego, and our fantastic Family and Community Engagement Office will be joined by a number of our partners to update you on the team's efforts. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ms. Borrego.
Good evening, President Vasquez, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. This evening, staff from the Family and Community Engagement Department are excited to share with you activities, projects, and partnerships that we have been engaged in since school closure. Our presentation will provide you with a few highlights of what FACE has done to support our families, students, and school community. The COVID-19 pandemic has shined a light on the value of family engagement, specifically the importance of parent-school partnership. As an educational system, it is important for us to identify resources and strategies that equip families to support learning at home. After all, parents are the experts on their children. Teachers change annually, but parents accumulate a wealth of knowledge about their children as learners over the years. In fact, research has found that no matter what type of household the child is living in, the same key to educational success holds true. Having a caring adult who is fully engaged, interested, and supporting of their education is the best predictor of how much their children will enjoy and thrive in school. As a department, our commitment is to support and build the capacity of families to engage with their students and school community in a meaningful and authentic way. And in building an effective and successful partnership between home and school, there are 5 areas to consider. Link to learning, which is to connect directly to student learning and development goals. Relational, building relations in multiple directions among teachers, families, and students. And the offering of interactive opportunities for parents to be involved in hands-on projects or experiences that help them connect the learning to support their student. The use of collaboration, using parent input effectively and providing parents with vital information about their children's academic and emotional development. And finally, developmental, building the intellectual and social emotional capacity of students and their families. I'm excited to offer to you at this time to introduce to you Ms. Benita H., our Coordinator of Family Engagement, who will continue on with our presentation. Benita, take it away.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Kern and Ms. Cunningham. You see on the flyer, on the slide here, we have the benefits of family engagement, and we've shared this in the past about increasing student achievement, improving attendance and behavior, as well as enhancing the understanding of family and community and strengthening the school relationship. But I would like to say since March, since we've been distant learning, we've actually have focused more on building effective family engagement from the school side, because we know at the authentic relationships between families and educators is a win for everyone. And so we really are focused on families able to share their hopes and goals with their child's educator, and educators have opportunities to understand families and how they can support the students learning at home. Because we know, like I said, from going from the benefits of family engagement to school size, building effective family engagement. So that's been the shift. So we're gonna highlight some programs that started in March and continue to go to support families through distant learning. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Maria. She's one of our parent family support ambassadors. Next.
Maria, are you available? You might be on mute.
Oh, hello, sorry.
No problem. Glad to have you.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Kern, parents, and members of the community. My name is Maria Godoy, and I am part of the Family and Community Engagement Department under the role of Parent Family Support Ambassador. I am bilingual in Spanish, and my position allows me to connect with students and families whose primary language is Spanish. I work alongside counselors and school staff by bridging communication between schools and families. My interaction with parents across different schools in the district has provided me with information regarding the support that Latino families in our community are seeking. I found a large group of parents are looking to learn about school and district programs to help their students become more engaged. They were also seeking to feel included and to be feeling part of the school community. COVID-19 represented a challenge for many, but I saw an opportunity to reach out to these families during this difficult time. And then I informed my department of my findings, and with their support, we developed a district staff network who could help support our Latino community. Then we subsequently developed a series of Spanish parent workshops named Talleres Familiares. These are a series of virtual parent workshops that are presented to families in Spanish, where they can learn more about school programs and how to become better engaged in school without having to worry about their language barrier. The development of these Spanish parent workshops not only provided a learning opportunity for information to them, but also served as a platform among parents to connect them with staff and other parents to develop that needed connection. As a result of this success for these workshops, and by request of many parents who have attended, the FACE department will be starting a Parent Leadership Academy in Spanish, focusing on academic advocacy and district leadership in January 2021. Also, my role at Mesa Verde High School as Parent Family Support Ambassador has brought me many opportunities to engage with students through the Youth Development Network, Students with a Voice, and Brown Issues Club. All these organizations help students elevate their voice. And I would like to highlight a student group that I am advisor for. This is the Brown Issues Club at Mesa Verde. Brown Issues is a youth-centered leadership-based organization who's devoted to the advancement of underserved Brown communities. Being a part of this club created an opportunity to meet students who have extraordinary leadership skills. I present to you two student examples from Mesa Verde High School. One is a senior whose name is Gabriel Conejo, and Ashlyn Gordon, who is a freshman this year. Now, unfortunately, Gabriel Conejo, who was going to present tonight. He wasn't feeling well. He's been sick for the past few days, but he shared with me some of his thoughts that he thought it was important for you to know about him. So I'm just gonna read his highlights. So I was born in Mexico, and I have a caring attitude, and I am very hardworking mindset. My parents are my main motivators because I am a first-generation college student. My goal is to attend a 4-year college and become a social worker or a psychologist. I have been part of AVID and Bach Scholars programs. I've also taken multiple AP and honor classes throughout my years at Mesa Verde. My participation in these programs has helped me develop skills and achieve a 4.33 GPA as a senior in high school. I was drawn to become a student leader, to be a voice for the disenfranchised students that feel their voice is not being heard. I am currently on the school side council for Mesa Verde High School, where I feel my voice is heard. I'm also part of the Key Club, the CFS and Brown Issues. Key Club has been a gateway for me to do many hours of community service and has helped me become also a better student leader by giving me the power to represent my school. Brown Issues has helped me to better express my culture and share my values and traditions with students with the same backgrounds as me, as well as my whole community and the school. He also mentioned that I met Ms. Godoy in Brown Issues, and she has been a great mentor and has really helped with my parents. A lot of the ideas and events in our clubs are foreign to them. Ms. Godoy helps better explain to them in Spanish than I could ever. And then he concludes saying, I dream of a better environment for myself and fellow classmates to learn and grow, not only as students, but as humans. I want to see more resources for mental health and academic prosperity, and I am going to work for them. So now I'm just gonna welcome Ashlyn, and she's going to present herself. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashlyn Gordon. I am a part of Brown Issues as the president. I'm also a part of SWAV, ETS, as well as band, as well as jazz band. I currently have a 3.75 GPA, and I am planning to attend college. I will be the second generation. I plan to follow my older sister and major in sociology, and I participate in various activities outside of school. I am part of a nonprofit organization called Stand Up Classer, and they help assist survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. And I became a student leader once I got to Mesa. I attended Olympus Junior High, so I'm completely new to the district. And I kind of was always so afraid to voice my opinion and to kind of be heard throughout different environments. Even though I was very close with a lot of my teachers and a lot of my peers, I just didn't feel that strong connection. And Maria has given me so many wonderful opportunities to be able to voice myself, as well to be able to find who I am and who I want to be when I am older. I am so thankful for all the clubs that I am part of, as well as all the dreams that they have helped me overcome. This is the highest that my grades have ever been, and it's such an inspiration. Coming from a low-income family, as well as being a young Black African-American female, it is so important that I'm able to be heard, as well as I'm able to have that communication with my teachers, as well as other staff members. So I just want to thank you guys so much for giving me that opportunity, as well as Maria.
Next, thank you, Ashlyn. I know she was nervous sitting there listening to all the comments. I appreciate you. And I just want to say, we wanted both the students to speak because we wanted you to have a senior's perspective and a freshman's perspective, because like family engagement is a continual process. It's not a one and done. So it was nice to see that involvement with family engagement. Now I'd like to turn it over to Vice Principal Michelle Speed, and she's going to highlight some of the work that her and Anthony Brooks were doing at Encina High School. Thank you, Michelle.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Kern and Mrs. Cunningham. It is my pleasure to speak to the board regarding some of the work that is being done at Encina Preparatory High School. Currently, we are working on strategies to address learning loss and creating safety nets for our students and families during this challenging time. Our admin team, repurposed, classified staff, and teachers are working diligently to meet the needs of our students and families. As we work to provide interventions and resources for our students and families, we were also tasked with the monitoring of 35 of our 8th and 9th grade students as a part of the Comprehensive Coordinated Intervention Early Services Program. When we received the list of students, one of our goals was to make sure that we were involving the parents in this process. And what better person for this work but our parent family support ambassador, Anthony Brooks. Thankfully, the FACE department has always been supportive of our school community. I will never forget when we had our first Bulldog Basics parent informational meeting. Unfortunately, after publicizing the event on all of our social media platforms, student Google Classrooms, as well as our school website, we only had one person join our parent webinar, and it was our illustrious Benita H., the coordinator of family engagement. She even sent us Leatherby's gift cards later in the week for us to raffle off to our families as an incentive for attendance. Anthony Brooks, a representative of the FACE department, has always been a team player and very much a part of our Encina family. He plays an integral role when messaging information as well as connecting with our families to make sure their voices are being heard. To begin devising a plan of action for this targeted student group, Anthony, Benita, and I met once a week for 3 consecutive weeks. It was decided that Anthony would collect data from last year, including attendance, behavior, and grades, and then compare the information with how students are progressing in distance learning. Thus far in the process, Anthony has noted that some interesting occurrences, actually. Even though most of our students are having some challenges with engagement, some of our students have shown positive gains in distance learning. Parents have been able to create learning spaces for their students without the additional distractions of peer pressure. Families have also mentioned that it is easier for their students to focus on their work without the pressure from friends. However, the norm has been the additional stress created by distance learning of having to monitor their students' educational progress, as well as trying to work and provide the essentials for their family. Parents have even stated that even though they were getting negative calls for behavior last year, they felt more connected to the school because the calls were more frequent and individualized as to what their student needed to be more successful. Our goal now is to positively use the voice of our students and parents to change our practice. Instead of always projecting our vision, needs, and desires on our families, it is time to flip the script and meet our families where they are to build trust and to help our students learn how to successfully navigate through our educational system without compromising their identity. We are still truly in the early stages of working with this targeted group of students and their families. Fortunately, we have an entire school community who are dedicated towards student achievement. However, I would like to take this time to thank Anthony Brooks and the FACE department on behalf of the Encina Preparatory High School family for their assistance and support toward helping us to lay the groundwork as we continue to pave the road to success. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Michelle Speed. I hope that you guys were able to see some of the innovative ways we've been continuing to do family engagement. And like I'll go back to my original statement, we're building effective family engagement. So family engagement, we know the benefits, but at this time, we're reaching out to schools and say, this is what we need to do for distant learning to work. We have to partner with parents. We have to work together to do that. So we'll continue to do that work as we work with families. And also as a department, we've been allowed to collaborate with far more departments this year, with special ed department, prevention department, MTSS, White House. So we know collectively is the goal that we have to do when we look at family engagement. So it's been a lot of wonderful opportunities in this form of distant learning, but I appreciate the opportunities. And now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Natalia, and she's going to talk about community partnership.
Hello. Everybody, I can't see if I can see.
We can hear you.
Okay. So again, my name is Natalia. I am the District Community Engagement Specialist with FACE. For those that don't know what FACE is, Family and Community Engagement. I'm going to highlight a little bit today about community partnership and what we're doing in that area. So when the pandemic hit, we knew that we needed to focus our community partnerships around the highest need. Those conversations with staff and families, through conversations with staff and families, we focused on the following areas. The 4 areas you see here: diversity, social and emotional well-being, closing the digital divide, and aiding with learning loss. We also knew that the way in which we partnered would change, right? And to be honest, I wasn't sure that we were going to receive the same support from our community. Reason being is about 60 to 65% of our partnerships had some form of on-campus, on-site, in-person interaction, and that element had changed, right? However, the support from our community did not waver. We had open conversations with our partners about the current needs, and they truly delivered. That support looked like hundreds of headsets for our little ears, which you could see down here, about $15,000 worth of headsets in our Citrus Heights elementary schools were delivered to specifically fit these K through 2nd grade learners. Now, this is important because we know that we have multiple learners in some households in the same spaces. We also have thousands of new books that focus on diversity, optimism, well-being, positivity, donated and put in hands of our students. That was so important. We also had virtual read alouds and story times, which continue. So all of this support fell to about $34,000 just this in fall. So one thing that I really wanted to highlight today is San Juan is truly supported by our community. We truly have a community that cares and a community that wants to help, and we are surrounded by that. So with that being said, I wanted to introduce with us today Judy Shoemaker, who is a member of the Carmichael, president of the Carmichael Kiwanis Club, who is a longstanding partner with San Juan Unified. Judy.
Thank you, Natalia, and good evening. On a personal note, I was secretary at Garfield Elementary for 25 years, retired in 2007 and volunteered until its closing in 2010 when I joined Kiwanis. Carmichael Kiwanis had supported our community, students, teachers, and families for many years. Our club has continued our dedication to the school district. In fact, in the last 5 years, we have donated $50,000 to your visual and performing arts programs, VAPA, and $15,000 to grants for your district's Carmichael area schools designated programs. San Juan is an active organizational member of our club, and when the pandemic hit, we surveyed all members and many nonprofits in our area as to the needs at that time. The biggest concerns were food for families and education. We formed the Emergency Carmichael Council, and San Juan became our major focus. We reached out to Natalia Guerri, San Juan's representative to our Kiwanis, who also serves on our board. Our partnership through Natalia has offered many ways of supporting San Juan students. In August, we donated back-to-school kits to students for online learning. Early this fall, we donated food money and gift cards to your food closet, and November 7th, we volunteered at Walmart in Citrus Heights, and through the support of a very generous community, we filled the food closet at San Juan Central on November 9th. On December 15th, we will participate in the district's distribution to 75 identified families transitioning from homelessness with the McKinney-Vento program. We will be volunteering at San Juan Central, where Carmichael Rotary will be donating food packages, while we will be partnering with Sac Suburban Kiwanis, providing fuzzy socks, mittens, and beanies for the children of these families. Our roots are deep in San Juan, and our dedication has never wavered. We will continue our partnership through the pandemic and beyond. We care deeply about San Juan, its students, and its families. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who presented information and shared the activities projects that are going on. As you all see, we are very excited about the work that has been accomplished during this fall, but we're also very excited about what is coming in spring 2021. And while we may not know the circumstances and the exact way in which our students will be receiving their education, what we can tell you is we will continue to work collaboratively, ensuring that our department is connecting, engaging, and supporting our sites and families in multiple ways, including some of the examples that were shared. We're excited to continue to expand our Families Matter workshops, including having additional workshops in multiple languages to support our diverse family communities as we're continuing to learn the needs of our families and students during this time. And then excited to engage and transition our parents who were involved in the Talleres workshops into a Parent Leadership Academy, encouraging voice and encouraging leadership and empowerment for them to support their students. And finally, to continue to grow the opportunities for professional development so that school sites, school staff, and communities can understand and continue to support and encourage family engagement activities and outreach to the communities in which they serve. And so with that, I'd like to thank you so much for this opportunity to share this incredible work. I'd like to thank the FACE team, our school sites, and our community and partners who have been nothing but dedicated and committed to our families and our sites. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Lisa. And before we turn it over to the board for questions, I want to highlight that tonight's presentation is a little bit bittersweet for us. I always love the opportunity to celebrate this fantastic work, but tonight is Ms. Borrego's last time presenting to the board as our Director of Family Engagement. After this week, she's leaving us to join the California Department of Education to lead the charge in family engagement at the state level, where she will do fantastic and continue to help our efforts in San Juan as well. So we're incredibly excited for her. But the impact that she's made in the last 3 years to expand our services to families, develop our team, and build bridges between partners in our classrooms has been absolutely fantastic and will be greatly missed. So as we celebrate our engagement work tonight, I want to take the opportunity to recognize and say thank you to the entire team and all of our partners, but especially to Ms. Borrego for her leadership as she continues to shine bright and be a driving force for our students, families, and learning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, are there any questions that myself or my colleagues are able to answer?
Well, Mr. Allen, first, we're going to get back to that because I have some stuff to say about Ms. Borrego leaving. But first, I'll turn it to my colleague. Mr. Hernandez, would you like to get us kicked off?
I just want to, these are the kind of reports that really excite me about our district and the community involvement that helps our kids directly. And to hear Mr. Cornejo and Miss Gordon, the confidence in their lives and what they're participating in, there's no doubt in my mind that these types of programs are helping them be great leaders someday. You can see it already. So thank you so much. Thank you to all our community partners. And thank you so much for your dedicated service to our district. We look forward to working with you in the future, and thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Ms. Costa.
Kudos to the whole team. This presentation actually mirrors every FACE workshop and Parent Leadership Academy that I've attended, because you always go out of your way to include voices from everyone, voices from students and parents and staff and the community. And everyone is valued, and that's what San Juan is about. Thank you for doing that. Thank you to our students. You inspired me. It was really wonderful to hear you tonight. And I look forward to hearing more about what you are accomplishing in the future. To our community partners, we couldn't do it without you. And Carmichael, Kiwanis, you have been such a good partner with us through so many events. So thank you for for that. And I just wish Ms. Borrego the very best and know that you will be helping us from the State Department of Education. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Asa, and I have to apologize to my colleagues. I got a little bit too excited. We're going to back up one step really quickly. Mr. Allen, do we have any public comments on this item?
If you have joined us on the Zoom call tonight and would like to offer a public comment on this item, now would be your opportunity to do so. And of course, you can do that by raising your hand with that raise hand button at the bottom of your screen on a mobile device, the bottom of the attendee list on a desktop client, or by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad. And we do not have any public comment, President Vasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. We will get back into order with Ms. Creason.
Thank you so much for the report. And I didn't know if we were going to be talking about Ms. Borrego tonight. So I'm so glad that we have an opportunity just to thank you publicly and honor you and uplift you. When I got that board communication, I kind of freaked out. But ultimately, I'm really happy for you and that you're still going to be, fighting for our kids at the state level. So I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm truly, truly appreciative for everything that you've done. Gotta call out Ashlyn. I mean, that was just an amazing presentation. It was so fabulous to hear from you. I appreciate the student voice being incorporated into this presentation. And that's why, hearing directly from you how things are going. Someone said that you were nervous and you played that off beautifully. I could not tell. I just want you to know. And I also want to call out, I appreciate you using your pronouns in your Zoom link. I noticed it and I just wanted you to know that I noticed it and I really appreciate it. I do that as well. I love the FACE department. I just love every time you guys come and talk about the great work that you're doing. As a parent, I see it from multiple levels. I see it from the parent perspective and I also see it from the board perspective. And I just love everything that you do. And it's amazing how much you do for so many stakeholders. I mean, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of students and then the families that come behind that. And you're a small but mighty team that somehow manages it all. And I greatly appreciate all that you do. One thing I'm wondering, two things I'm wondering, regarding the parent ambassadors, how do, not so much students, I could see how students easily kind of spot you and know that how to engage you, but I'm wondering how do parent ambassadors make families aware, like parents aware that they exist and can be accessed? How does that work?
Benita, you got this?
I was trying to unmute myself. And then Maria, please feel free to jump in because you are an excellent example. What we do is we actually reach out to the families. A lot of the ambassadors go to the intervention teams and they meet with the counselors and say, oh, this student's not participating, this student's not engaged. And they make that call out to the family, not to say why they're not engaged, but to see how they can support them. So that's how we do it. We look at the list, we see who's doing well, what can they do. If we see a difference, we look for trends. If someone was an A student now they're not doing well, or if they had poor attendance. And also we look at and see if someone was doing poorly and now they're doing well. And we just reach out to the families and let them know that we're available to them. So I think that's the strength of ambassadors, is that they include the families in the process of working with students. Maria, would you like to add anything?
Thank you, Bonita. Yes, I would like to add, in my interaction with parents, they are really appreciating that connection and that relationship that we are creating with them. So it's not just one phone call saying that, okay, we are here to let you know that your child is doing poorly. And no, it's sometimes we give those phone calls saying, your child is doing amazing and you should celebrate him. And, just as we did with Ashlyn and Gabriel. So we have to recognize also that, that children and students are overcoming a lot of challenges. So, part of being an ambassador is not just doing work, but also creating those relationships. So, and I really appreciate this opportunity that the FACE department is giving me just to be able to connect with families and students.
That's wonderful.
Can I add Anthony Brooks? Would you like to add anything? Anthony, are you muted?
I am muted. I do probably have something to add. Good evening, everyone. I typically just actually walk up to a lot of parents because they don't know we exist. They really don't have an idea of how to navigate the school systems or things like that. So majority of the time I get the opportunity to kind of meet a parent and kind of tell them what I do. I take full advantage, give out my card, give out my personal cell phone number, and let them know I can be reached almost anytime.
Thank you, Anthony. I just want to add, there's two other ambassadors. They're not on here right now, and that's Leslie Leatherwood and Kimber Rice.
Absolutely, and I appreciate so much of what they do, and I really appreciate what was said about, just walking up to the parents, because I hear that there's a lot that, for a variety of reasons, not all families know everything that their school site offers, let alone what the district offers and the resources that are available. So I just hearing that explanation of how you engage, I know that must take a lot of work. There's a lot of kids, and to sift through and just put yourself out there, it's really appreciated. And I hope, and I know that people are talking and working through this all the time, so that we're doing more and more to engage our families, but that there's more of that at the school site level, to hear about the great work that's happening at the district level and how to engage with people, the ambassadors and folks that are there to do that kind of work. So thank you for all that you do. Oh, and lastly, I just want to say thank you to our many partners. It was great to hear from Kiwanis, and I know that there's so many partners. There's an event that we usually have that I know that we can't have this year, with all the partners that are out there in the courtyard and with the tables, and you could really just see how many, it's a heck of an impact to see how many people come together for our kids. And so I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to do that and thank you in person, but thank you now, and I appreciate the partnership.
Dr. McKibben.
I wanted to ask first a question. Ms. Godoy, you talked a bit about the Spanish Leadership Academy. Can you give us any more details on, has that started? What is your expectation if it hasn't started already? And what are your goals for that group? It sounds very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I just saw the need, as I mentioned, as I was speaking with parents, I noticed kind of like a trend in the families were seeking the same things. And then that's why I brought to my department, we're having the same kind of like challenges among families. So we need to address these. We are the Family and Community Engagement Department. And I think it was our role to take kind of like the responsibility to create something that we're really addressing those concerns from parents. And also with this distance learning, it was like a great opportunity from us just to create that connection. So that is what brought that idea of developing kind of like, virtual classes, since we weren't in the terms of getting in person. So we just developed those virtual classes. And that was really convenient for parents just to log into their computers and just having, like an hour or 2 hours of instruction, or maybe, like I mentioned, a platform just to ask questions or concerns. So that's how we start developing those kind of like groups of parents. And because of the success, so we are continuing into, the next stages for the Parent Academy, Leadership Academy.
I'd just like to add to that. It started off as parents, we wanted to teach parents how to get on how to get onto the Chromebook. So it just started as basic last March. This is what you need to get on from the Chromebook. And since that, those parents have actually turned into, okay, now that we know how to get on the Chromebook, we want to be able to ask questions and share our opinions. So it went from one thing and it has developed into parents wanting to say, we want to share our voice, and we're not going to let the language prevent us from sharing our voice and our opinions to support our students through academics. And we actually have a workshop tomorrow at 6 if you want to come and check. It's all in Spanish, Face Department, every night we're on.
The second thing I wanted to note was your discussion. I believe it was Ms. Speed that was talking at the time, talking about the phone calls with parents and not having the phone, the first, altogether too often, our phone calls connote bad news. And what you were talking about, and I believe I wrote it down, it says calls were more positive, were examples, were what students needed to do to be successful, not where they were failing. And I want to commend you for that. And you also talked about celebrating our students and celebrating our parents and how important that is as part of what we do in terms of the education. And thank you very much for that. And to our community partners, and particularly the Kiwanis of Carmichael, for those others of us who are also in those kinds of things, you provide an example to us, which for all of us, we will try to follow. And finally, I wanted to say congratulations to Ms. Borrego. I believe you're moving to the California Department of Education. You're becoming their first community engagement manager, administrator, and that sort of thing. And congratulations to that. And thank you for doing that. And thank you for what you've done for us for the last 3 years.
Thank you, Dr. McKibben. And frankly, I don't really know where to start, but I'll start with, I've been wanting to like jump out of my seat this entire presentation because all of this work is just so critically important, but to hear the voices from the field and kind of hear it all together. I already knew that FACE was bringing the A team to present, and then you add the comments from Gabrielle and Ashlyn, and you hit it out of the park. It was really great. And also take a moment before I forget to say, Ashlyn, I want to be you when I grow up. So if you're accepting any room for mentoring folks, let me know. But so excited to hear from you directly and just hear how much of an advocate you are for yourself. Like that was just tremendous and so refreshing. And I just want to say thank you. If you were nervous, yeah, hit it extraordinarily well. I still get nervous. And so it was just really fantastic to hear from you directly. And Ms. Godoy, I hope you'll express to Gabrielle that we definitely missed him, but I want to say thank you for passing on some of his remarks on his behalf. Really, really appreciate it. Appreciate hearing from our students. It was really fantastic. I also want to just say, I think I shared some of the anxieties that Natalia started out with, kind of concerned, are our community partners still going to be there as we move to an online format and as everything gets flipped upside down? And it's almost overwhelming to know that they're still there. And I want to say thank you to the Kiwanis and everybody else. This is a group effort, and to know that our community is still there for our students and our families is really heartwarming. So thank you. And I have no doubt that is because of our relationship between FACE and the community. So Ms. Borrego, thank you very much for all of your service. And if you think I haven't already called CDE to say, why are you stealing our best and brightest? You're wrong, because I did. But I know that it's not even, I can't even say our loss is their gain because it's not our loss. It's the state's gain. And so as was alluded to, we fully anticipate you to continue being an advocate for our families, but for all of our families. They'll have a talking to with the SPI, but that's fine. Thank you very much for all of your years of service and for everything that you've done, and really to the entire team. I mean, even just the small things like, Bonita, you got this, like letting your team rise and shine has been so amazing to watch, and really is how we've been able to accomplish all this work. And I get to sit here and pretend like I had anything to do with it when really you're all doing all the work. So thank you very much. I know this has not been easy, and I know frankly it's going to get harder for a lot of our families through the winter. But I think back to being that high school student that was given a little extra support by her teachers during the weeks where we weren't in school and folks weren't sure how they were going to get by. That's what comes out, and that's the emotion that comes out now, because I know it means a lot to our families, because it meant a lot to me. So thank you all. I appreciate the presentation, and we wish you well.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
And with that, I will get myself together. And we are now at item I3, the new board policy 0415. Dr. Calvin.
Good evening once again, President Villescaz, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. Board Policy 0415, Equity, was presented to the board on October 27th as a discussion item. And tonight, the superintendent is recommending that the board adopt this new policy.
Thank you, Dr. Calvin. Mr. Allen, do we have any public comments on this item?
We've not had any submitted public comment. If you have joined us on the Zoom meeting tonight and would like to offer a comment on this item, now is your opportunity to do so by clicking that raise hand button at the bottom of your screen on a mobile device, bottom of the attendee list on a desktop client, or of course, *9 if you have dialed into the meeting tonight. And we do not have any public comment, President Villescaz.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Do any board members have questions or comments at this time? Mr. Hernandez?
No comment. Thank you.
Ms. Costa?
I just wanted to say that it really felt like everything came together with this policy. All of the discussions this summer, all of the work that has gone beforehand, and I really want to commend staff for their work on this. Thank you so much.
Ms. Creason?
No comment.
I concur with the words of Ms. Costa, and this is an action item. It was already previously discussed, but thanks to the entire team that made it possible. Proud to have this.
No.
Dr. McKibben. Dr. McKibben.
I just want to echo what Ms. Costa said, that having participated in the summer discussion, looking at the 8 pillars that they came up with in this this policy reflects the passion that we saw this summer on these kinds of things, and to make it part, to continue this and to make it basically part of who we are and what we're striving for is very important.
Thank you, Dr. McKibben. Sorry for getting ahead of myself there. With that, this is an action item. Seeing no further comments or questions at this time, is there a motion to adopt board policy 0415 regarding equity?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Costa and seconded by Dr. McKibben. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 That was unanimous. We're at item I4, revisions to board policy. Ms. Simlick, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you and good evening, President Velasquez, board members, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. Before you tonight is a recommendation by the superintendent to discuss and approve revisions to 8 board policies. As explained in the agenda item, the district is going through the federal program monitoring process conducted by CDE. As part of that process, numerous board policies were reviewed and found need to be updated. Those 8 policies are before you tonight. While several of them have substantive changes, others needed revisions only to update names or titles. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you.
Thank you, Ms. Simlick. Mr. Allen, do we have any public comments on this item?
We have not received any, but if you are on the Zoom with us tonight and would like to offer a comment on this item, now would be your opportunity to do so with that raise hand feature located at the bottom of your screen on a mobile device, bottom of the attendee list on a desktop client, or *9 on your telephone keypad if you have dialed into the meeting tonight. And we do not have any hands raised, President Villescaz.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Do any board members have questions or comments? We'll begin with Mr. Hernandez.
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Costa. Ms. Creason?
No.
Dr. McKibben?
No, thank you.
Okay. This was a discussion item and is also an action item. I just want to procedurally take a pause really quick. There's 8 items here. If it's okay with my colleagues and there's no concerns, is it the will of the board to approve all 8 board policies together with one single vote?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez, does that work for you?
Absolutely.
Okay, with that, is there a motion to approve the revisions to the 8 board policies as presented?
Move the item.
Been moved by Mr. Hernandez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Creason. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are now at item I5, Choices Charter School, one-time off-schedule payment. Ms. Flagler, please begin when you're ready.
Good evening, President Villescaz, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. The superintendent is recommending that the board discuss a request from Choices Charter School to provide a one-time off-schedule 2% payment to staff. 2 years ago, the board approved a salary increase as well as a one-time off-schedule payment of 2% for Choices employees. Because ADA revenue for Choices does not finalize until the end of each school year, Choices administration was not prepared at that time to provide an additional 2% off-schedule payment, which would have been comparable to what the district was offering its own employees. After analyzing the final budget outcome for 2019-2020, Choices is now able to provide the 2% off-schedule payment. Joining us tonight is Choices Charter School Director, Tony Otto, who is available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flagler, and thank you, Mr. Odo, for joining us. Mr. Allen, do we have any public comments on this item?
We have not received any public comment, but if you have joined us on Zoom and would like to offer a comment, now is your opportunity to do so with that raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen, bottom of your attendee list if you're on a desktop client, or *9 on your keypad if you have dialed into the meeting tonight. And we have no raised hands, President Villescaz.
Do any board members have questions or comments? Mr. Hernandez,
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Costa, Ms. Creason,
No, thanks.
Dr. McKibben?
No questions. Can this come back on?
Miss Simlick, maybe who might still be with us, or perhaps Ms. Flagler. I think this has to be a vote.
Yeah, you know what we'll do is, I think it does as well.
Yes.
If it can come back on consent, we could put it there, but if it needs to come back, we'll put it on the business item.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. I would recommend that it come back as a business item.
Okay, we will keep it as such. Thank you, Ms. Simlick, for joining us. With that, this item will be brought back for action on December 15th. We're at item I6, CSEA tentative agreement. Mr. Shoemake, please begin when you're ready.
Sure. Good evening, President Villescaz, board members, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. I'm here tonight to present the tentative agreement between the California School Employees Association, Chapter 127, and the San Juan Unified School District. This agreement was ratified by 85% of the voting CSEA members last night and is supported by the superintendent and his cabinet. At this time, I can answer any questions if needed.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemake. Mr. Allen, do we have any public comments on this item?
We have not received a written comment. And again, if you are with us on the Zoom meeting and would like to offer a comment on this specific item, now is your opportunity to do so with that raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen on a mobile device, bottom of the attendee list on a desktop client, or *9 on your telephone keypad. And we do not have any raised hands, President Villescaz.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Do any board members have questions or comments on this item? We'll begin with Mr. Hernandez.
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Costa?
I felt so positive about the 85% of the members voting for this, and also some of the longstanding issues that we've heard discussed being addressed. So job well done. Thanks.
That's great.
Just want to take the opportunity to speak in appreciation of the team that put this together on both sites, and that's it.
Dr. McKibben.
Just want to comment on the use of pilots and so forth that are mentioned here that I think are very promising, because it'll give us a way of looking at something and understanding better how to implement that. Congratulations on using the pilot.
Want to also acknowledge a lot of the hard work and a little dash of creativity that went into this. Very appreciative. With that, this item will be brought back for action on December 15th. We are now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemake, and thanks to the teams. We're at item I7, California Voting Rights Update. Ms. Simlick.
Yes, thank you. And good evening again, President Velasquez, board members, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. The superintendent recommended a brief update be provided to the board concerning the California Voting Rights Act. As the board might recall, and as explained in the agenda item, the Board of Education took the first step in the transition from at-large trustee elections to trustee area elections on March 10th, 2020, when it adopted a resolution declaring the intent to transition between the two systems. At a special board meeting on March 10th, 2020, the board held the first pre-map public hearing with a demographer to discuss the process. However, before a second public hearing could be held, the board adopted the resolution to pause the process due to the health and safety concerns caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, pursuant to Governor Newsom's executive order N 3820. The district's current plan is to resume this process once all students return to in-person instruction and it is safe to re-engage our community following the guidelines of the Sacramento Public Health Department and the California Department of Public Health. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simlick. Mr. Allen, do we have any public comments on this item?
I do have one written comment. I do have one hand raised at this time. For those who have joined us on Zoom, if you would like to offer a comment on this item, now is your opportunity to do so. And again, you can do that with the raise hand feature, clicking that at the bottom of your screen on a mobile device, the bottom of the attendee list on a desktop client, or by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad. And with that, if you are ready to start public comment, President Villescaz. Our first comment will be from Tanil Stewart.
Hello, board. Upon hearing that the plan for returning to have this changeover in how we vote as families delayed yet again, I'm very disappointed. I would really like to encourage you that you guys don't limit it to when we return to in-person learning and when we're allowed to meet safely, as you guys have shown over and over again tonight and profess with distance learning and Zooms and family engagement that is going so great. Obviously, engagement of the community is able to be done virtually. And that's what you guys keep saying here tonight in this meeting with all these presenters. So there's no excuse for engagement to not be held virtually to move this elective process forward. I think it's just delaying the voting process and really an equal opportunity and really the new word of the day, equity for all members involved and all students and families, because I think the board would look very different and be a lot more equitable if it was represented in what is being proposed and what should have already been in place for this last election. Thank you.
And we do have one written comment if you would like me to read that, President Villescaz.
Please go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Our written comment tonight is from Scott Rafferty, who writes, I had a chance to speak with Mr. Spinelli this afternoon. We've worked together in the past. When you allow him to negotiate a compromise, he'll be effective. Settlement can cut out attorney fees, so sooner is better. Mr. Spinelli told the court that its broad remedial power allows removing members after they take office. I can't deny that, but it's unusual and not something we want. Your prior lawyers told the governor that registrars wouldn't implement timely maps due to COVID. They claimed I was demanding and inflexible, which is also the opposite of the truth. We had 3 mitigations to discuss if 2022 was truly inevitable, 7 areas, a 2021 special election, and/or independent redistricting. But your ex-lawyers kept insisting 2020's election would be by area, even as they misled the governor. When, if enacted safe harbor, the legislature prohibited delay from presidential to off years when minority turnout is low. They said this was still minority vote dilution, even if elections are no longer at large. After I let 2 cities delay a cycle, they enacted AB 2123, outlining any extension of safe harbor without a timely written agreement to submit maps for the next election. The governor can't rewrite the laws. That's the legislature's job, nor decide if COVID excuses delay judiciary's job, nor cancel equal voting rights for Latinos, which our constitutions guarantee. You are not throwing us out of court. Delay caused dilution, so it's not enough to promise area elections in 2022. Let 2 trustees from minority areas in 2021. And that is all of our public comment on this item, President Villescaz.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Do any board members have questions or comments on this item? Mr. Hernandez,
No comments. Thank you.
Ms. Costa, Ms. Creason.
Yes. And so I just want to reiterate what I've said in the past. I'm very committed to our board, our district, moving to by district elections by 2022. My position has never wavered. I've been incredibly consistent. And why I've always been steadfast on 2022 is because at the time, I thought that we would have the census data by then. As many of us know, that our district has changed incredibly in the last 10 years. So to not account for that tremendous change is, to me, unequitable and completely unacceptable. However, now we know that the census is going to be delayed and we don't have any idea how long that'll be, and that's incredibly unfortunate. So with that new revelation, regardless, I mean, we have to move forward. I totally understand. I totally agree. And 2020 is over. 2020 is done. 2022 is the next election. I look forward to the change at that time, for that time.
Dr. McKibben.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Simlick, for bringing this forward. I also just want to reaffirm my interest and commitment in moving to by-district elections. We'll continue, as we have in every way, to accommodate a global pandemic, along with not having the appropriate data to do so at this time. Thank you for the update. We are now at item I-8, setting the annual organizational meeting. This is an action item to set the date and time for the board's annual organizational meeting, where the board will elect officers for the coming year and consider other annual items. Mr. Allen, do we have any public comments on this item?
I've not received any public comment for this item. And of course, if you're with us on the Zoom and would like to offer a comment, that raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen, the bottom of the attendees list, or *9 on your telephone keypad if you've dialed into the meeting tonight. It looks like we do not have any comment on this item, President Villescaz.
Okay, do any board members have questions or comments? Mr. Hernandez,
No comments.
Ms. Costa, Ms. Creason?
Nope.
Dr. McKibben?
No.
Is there a motion to set Tuesday, December 15th at 6:30 as the date and time for the annual organizational meeting?
So moved.
It's been moved by Ms. Creason and seconded by Ms. Costa. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. We are at item J, board reports. Are there any board reports at this time? We'll begin with Mr. Hernandez.
No reports.
Costa? Ms. Creason?
Just really quickly, again, really enjoyed my time at Laurel Ruff and at Ruff Richardson over the last 2 weeks. I'm sorry if you are not aware of all the bunnies running around Laurel Ruff Ruff Richardson. It's just an amazing experience, especially when we all have been locked in the house for a while. It really brought something special to my soul. I also want to recognize the wonderful work of Project Optimism. I was able to participate in a book read to some second graders, which was so great to just see their teeny tiny little faces, even if it was on Zoom. They were really engaged in I Promise, and why can I not think of that man's name that wrote it? Famous basketball player. Oh my goodness. LeBron James. Sorry, it's late. I apologize. I know who LeBron James is. Wrote a great book called I Promise, and it's so inspiring. And I had not read it before, and it was just fabulous. So I appreciate Project Optimism putting out the call. I mean, it didn't just go to me as a board member. It really went out. The call and invitation to participate went out to the community, so we can all engage our kids. So it was fabulous. So I appreciate all the work that went into that. And then I also want to thank the FACE department for the incredible workshop that they provided. I think that was last night. The days are starting to run together. SOS, and it was a signs of suicide workshop. And it was just very well done. And as somebody that has worked in mental health policy for many, many years and have been incredibly involved. I mean, I'm very nitpicky about language and what's being delivered. And I was so impressed by the message that came out in that very short amount of time. So I'm just appreciative, and I was honored to make some opening remarks for that very important conversation.
Dr. McKibben.
As evidence of how slow a learner I am, I want to remark that last week I finally finished the Master's in Governance program. And it only took me 5 years to do it. And I want to thank Trustee Costa for encouraging me to do it and so forth. And I do believe that I might indeed be a little smarter because of it. Thank you very much.
Excellent. We are now at item K, future agenda items. Do any board members wish to add any items to the future agenda? Mr. Hernandez?
Nope, none on my part. Thank you.
Ms. Costa? Ms. Creason?
No, thank you.
Dr. McKibben?
No.
I don't want to add anything, but just want to call out at this point at the agenda, the request on the consent item from Ms. Creason.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
We'll just note that here as well. Okay,
Thank
great.
Thank you.
We are at item L, visitor comments. Mr. Allen, are there any visitor comments?
If you've joined us on the Zoom meeting tonight and would like to offer a comment on an item that has not been on tonight's agenda, this would be your final opportunity to do so. You can, of course, do that with the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen on a mobile device, the bottom of the attendee list if you're on a desktop client, or by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad if you have dialed into the meeting tonight. And we do have one hand raised at this time, President Villescaz.
Okay, please begin when you're ready. I'd like to remind, sorry, I'm going to back up a second. I'd like to remind the public that comments are limited to 2 minutes under the Ralph M. Brown Act. The board is not allowed to comment on items that are not on the agenda. So we are not ignoring your comments. We just can't respond to any individual comments, and the superintendent can refer items to staff who can follow up with you. I apologize. Please begin when you're ready now.
Our first comment will be from Tanil Stewart.
Hello again, board. So I'm bringing yet again my concern that, and I've emailed about this concern and I've brought it up a couple of times now, that our students still do not have the necessary equipment to fully allow them to access education. And that specific equipment is the touchscreen Chromebooks that the board and the school district stated would be provided to TK through second grade students. I understand it's COVID. But because of COVID, everything is not an excuse to not follow through and provide the curriculum and the needed items for students. I have a kindergarten student who is not able to fully access the seesaw activities she is assigned. She gets 45 minutes of distance learning Zoom time with her kindergarten teacher, who does a phenomenal job. And she is attempting to teach my child in tandem with me. And she has to, in order to try to teach my child, assign her curriculum on Seesaw. My daughter cannot use a clicky button mouse to draw the letter S. She needs a tactile item. I provide whiteboards, I provide written paper for her to do it, but it does not complete these Seesaw activities, which are supposed to be able to be accessed through a touch screen device. So yet again, when will these devices be made available to the students as stated by the school district that they would be available? That is my big question. Because again, don't tell us you're going to do something and then drop the ball and not follow through with it. It comes back to that communication piece. So keep communicating. They said September. It's now not October, it's November, we're almost in December, still no touchscreen Chromebook, and my child's still gonna have to do distance learning even into January and potentially longer. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment will be from Caroline Castaneda.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank you for your work on behalf of our children, and also just to advocate for a return, if possible, for the individual screen appearance for each board member. It's a little bit easier to follow the conversation when it's not particularly a topic that one is familiar with, if we can see your faces a little bit better. So that is it. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your comment. And that is our final comment, President Villescaz.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. We do not need to return to closed session, so we are adjourned. I meant to say happy Thanksgiving as I was gaveling.
Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 15th. Public session is expected to start at 6:30 p.m. and we do anticipate being on Zoom and YouTube as we have been. Thank you again for attending, and we hope to see you next time.